Chapter 330. Chapter 330. Hunting a Saint Beast. However, an hour after they entered the deep-sea underground palace, they finally encountered a powerful creature. "What's wrong?" Song Sui-jing asked in surprise while holding her ice crystal sword. "There's a big guy in the corner, I feel it." Yi Xian slowly replied. His supersonic bat bloodline could sense that this creature was an octopus, and his myriad beast bloodline could tell that it was a saint beast. Song Sui-jing also looked forward and saw several tentacles stretching out from the corner. "Aya, I hate these things the most." Song Sui-jing couldn't help but shrink behind Yi Xian. Multi-legged creatures such as octopuses, crabs, centipedes, and even caterpillars are creepy, especially large ones. "That's good, let me do it." Song Sui-jing raised her axe and directly rushed over. "You wait here, I'll also go and take a look," Yi Xian said and followed. The map Lin Wanyue gave him indicated that in the first part of the underwater palace, there would be at most one dragon-strength saint beast. Starting from the middle part, there would be 2 or even 3 dragon-strength saint beasts. As for the second part, it was the same as the first part, at most 1 dragon strength. The Heavenly Water Continent was very far from the Bloodstone Continent. Even an expert with 3 dragon strength would need more than a month to pass through the underwater palace. Therefore, it was still a long way to go. Yi Xian and Song Sui-jing rushed over. The latter raised the flaming sun axe and chopped at one of the tentacles, but he couldn't cut it. "So tough, take another one of my axe." Song Sui-jing shouted and raised the flaming sun axe with all her strength. Rip! An octopus tentacle was cut off and fell to the ground. Yi Xian also took a step forward and slashed down with his 8 Desolations great sword. Rip! The second octopus tentacle was cut off. However, what shocked the two was that the octopus tentacle that Song Sui-jing just cut off grew back. What a strong recovery ability! Yi Xian was stunned. A new octopus tentacle had grown on the spot. This recovery ability was quite impressive. However, Yi Xian still went over out of curiosity. He was prepared to devour the octopus tentacle to see how much it was worth. At this moment, a change occurred. The 2 severed octopus tentacles suddenly began to twist, and then turned into a pillow-sized octopus. "Ah, that's disgusting." Song Sui-jing, who had appeared out of nowhere, subconsciously took a step back. "Damn, it can actually split apart. Go to hell." Yi Xian was also shocked. He swung his sword again and cut the little octopus in half. This time, the octopus did not split again. "Damn it! It's just like a flower vase. It doesn't even have a single devouring point. Looks like I'll have to devour it whole." Yi Xian cursed in his heart. He turned his head and said, "I'll go take care of this big one." "All right." Judge Song nodded. Then, Yi Xian directly rushed out. He did not attack the tentacles. He was going to find trouble with the main body directly. He turned a corner and found a big white octopus attached to a wall. He took a closer look and found that the tentacles were more than 20 meters long. It was obvious how big the big white octopus was. The big white octopus also saw Yi Xian. It immediately retracted its tentacles and swung them at Yi Xian. Its attack speed was even faster than that of the azure sea serpent. Bam! The tentacles hit the floor, causing the ground to tremble. In order to prevent it from splitting into smaller octopus, Yi Xian directly chose to dodge and rushed straight over. All in all, there were 4 tentacles attacking him. Fortunately, he had the 8 barren wind formation. He could use the 8 sharp blades to shake off the tentacles. In an instant, he arrived in front of the octopus's big head, ready to give it a fatal blow. But at this moment, gurgle, gurgle. The big octopus's brain suddenly spat out a stream of purplish-black ink from its round mouth. Yi Xian hurriedly dodged. The ink hit nothing and turned the wall black. Sizzle. A strange sound entered Yi Xian's ears. He turned his head and found that the stones and seaweed in the corner had been corroded. This world is full of strange things. An octopus can actually spit out poisonous ink. But you deserve to die. How dare you scare my fiancé? Yi Xian roared in his heart. The 8 sharp blades instantly formed a sharp cone and began to spin at high speed. 8 barren wind formation. Sky rush. Boom. The octopus's big head was instantly penetrated. It is said that octopuses have 3 hearts. Watch how I stab you into a sieve. Yi Xian didn't let his guard down. He continued his attack and created a few big holes in the octopus's head. He even broke the ink sac, causing purple-black ink to spill out. The big octopus didn't want to die just like that. Before it died, it recalled all of its tentacles and spat out a huge amount of ink, painting the entire area black. But before that, Xianxia had already left the area. What a strong poison. I wonder if my myriad flower bloodline can withstand it. Xianxia retreated to the corner and couldn't help but say. After the big octopus died, he collected its corpse and began devouring it. The Saint Beast's corpse is really good. It's equivalent to 3 soul-condensing stones. Xianxia thought to himself. He then returned to where he was and said, "It's a Saint Beast's soul. But since your heavenly core hasn't shattered yet, I'll take it first." In order for a heavenly core warrior to break through to the 4th realm of the spirit realm, he had to first cultivate his core essence to its limit, then shatter his core and form his soul. But this brother and sister duo had just broken through, so they didn't need to use it yet. "And take it." Song Suijing nodded her head. After that, Xianxia immediately devoured the corpse, increasing his devouring crystal essence by 100,000, which was equivalent to 10 soul-condensing stones. He estimated that after killing a few hundred more Saint Beasts, he would be able to break through to the Strength Realm. The Azure Sea Flood Dragon's blood and the Dark Gold Flood Dragon's blood are both dragon's blood. That's why I still need one more. I wonder if there are any more flood dragons in this underground palace. If there are, once I break through to the Strength Realm, I'll be able to upgrade my myriad beast bloodline to Beast King bloodline. Xianxia thought to himself. After that, they continued their journey. There were quite a lot of profound beasts along the way. Although they weren't as valuable as the Saint Beasts, they could still accumulate. In just one day, Xianxia had gained 10% of his experience points. If he had another 10 days, he should be able to break through to the limit of the Heavenly Core realm. At that point of time, he would be able to break through to the Strength realm with 10 different beast souls. There was no day or night in the underground palace. Xianxia and the other two didn't travel quickly. They just sat down and rested when they had nothing to do. Song Suijing and Judge Song entered the yin and yang state to cultivate, and Xianxia was guarding them. Chapter 331. First encounter with the sea race. Today is the 7th day since they entered the Deep Sea Palace. As usual, they are heading west. The number of Saint Beasts they have killed has reached 30. As for the Xian Beasts, they are already too many to count. Aya, this Deep Sea Palace is too boring. Why are there so many creatures with legs? I can't even fight properly. Song Suijing said with an unhappy expression. She was of the same level as Song Ju, and her strength wasn't much different. However, Song Ju had killed countless profound beasts in the past 3 days, and she had also killed quite a few Saint Beasts with Xianxia. As for her, she hadn't killed a single Saint Beast. Don't worry, next time we meet a Saint Turtle, I will let you have it. Judge Song comforted. Brother, you are doing this on purpose. How can I break through such a strong defense? Song Suijing said with dissatisfaction. Judge Song said with a smile. Then let brother-in-law break the turtle's shell and let you have it. After hearing this, Xianxia was slightly helpless. Among the Saint Beasts they have encountered in the past few days, the turtle they encountered yesterday was the most difficult to deal with. That turtle's shell is so hard that he had to take more than 30 pills to break it open. The three began to chat. But at this time, Xianxia's face suddenly froze. What's wrong? Song Suijing asked curiously. Something is coming towards us. They are not big, but there are 3 of them. Xianxia took out the Bahuang sword. Let me do it, I am bored to death. Song Suijing hurriedly stood up. 3 Xian beasts is not a problem for her. However, when she saw the 3 creatures that had turned the corner, her body couldn't help but tremble. What is this? Fuck! Xianxia was also shocked. What did he see? Of these 3 creatures, the 2 on the left and the one in the middle is a big crab. What's even more strange is that the 2 prawns are holding 2 rods in their hands, while the big crab is holding 2 sledgehammers in its 2 pincers. What the hell? Is this a TV drama? After seeing the appearance of these 3 creatures, Song Suijing blurted out, Sea tribe? Yo, there are actually 3 humans here. How strange, a relatively fat prawn said. Strange, strange. How many years has it been since we met a human? Another skinny prawn said. Holy sh*t, it can speak? When Yi Xian heard the two sharp voices, he was shocked. It was one thing for Prawn and Crab to be able to walk on two legs. It was one thing for them to be able to wield weapons, but how could they speak? Yi Xian, they are members of the sea race, a race that lives at the bottom of the sea. Saiju's song hurriedly reminded. Then why is it here? The map doesn't say anything about it. Yi Xian felt helpless. At this time, the giant crab with the twin hammer said, "Humans, why have you intruded into our territory?" Your territory? Yi Xian frowned. This deep-sea underground palace is your territory? Nonsense, our sea dragon clan has occupied this deep-sea underground palace for several years. The giant crab coldly shouted. When it opened its mouth, it spat out a lot of foam, which made Yi Xian feel a little nauseous. A giant crab actually spoke in human language. This was too strange. I heard that this deep-sea underground palace was built by a Soul Essence Realm senior. Moreover, we only want to pass through this deep-sea underground palace to reach the Blood Cliff continent. Yi Xian politely said. The only way to the Blood Cliff continent has been blocked by our sea dragon clan. Go back to where you came from. The giant crab coldly said. Blocked. After Yi Xian and the other two heard this, they looked at each other. The map indicated that there was only one way to reach the Blood Cliff continent. But now, this road was blocked by the sea tribe. How could this be? Can we pass through? Yi Xian asked again. No, stop talking nonsense and go back. Otherwise, don't blame me for breaking the agreement with the humans. The giant crab directly refused. Agreement? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and said, If that's the case, then let me see the strength of the sea tribe. What shameless boasting. You dare to challenge our captain? You're courting death. The fat prawn coldly snorted. That's right. Captain's hammer can smash the shell of an iron-backed tortoise. The skinny prawn also echoed. After hearing this, Yi Xian's face sank to the extreme. The iron-backed tortoise was the tortoise saint beast he had killed the day before. However, the giant crab's hammer was able to shatter the shell of the iron-backed tortoise. If that attack had landed on him, he would have been turned into minced meat. Yi Xian. Song Suijing immediately showed a worried expression. It's fine. Don't worry. Yi Xian comforted. He estimated that this giant crab only had the strength of one dragon. Moreover, he also had the bloodline of the blade fish. In the deep-sea underground palace, his speed did not decrease like Song Suijing and Adjudicator Song. As long as he was fast enough, he wouldn't be hit. Immediately, he walked out with the Bahuang sword in hand. The giant crab saw Yi Xian coming out and shouted, Good courage. Our sea tribe has an agreement with the human race. If we meet in the sea, we can't attack the human race first. However, since you want to challenge me, then I won't be restricted by this agreement. I will say the ugly words first. I, Meng San, will not show mercy. If you are smashed to death by me, then you can only blame yourself for overestimating yourself. Come at me. Yi Xian coldly said. In his heart he thought, what's the point of using the human race's surname? Very well, as you wish. The giant crab called Meng San walked out. Captain, smash him to death with one hammer. Yes, smash him to death with one hammer. Let him know the power of our sea tribe. The fat and skinny prawns shouted. Just as they finished speaking, the human and crab on the battlefield began to move. Bam, bam, bam. Meng San's crab legs, which were not thinner than a human's thigh, quickly stomped on the ground and rushed towards Yi Xian with his hammer. From his weapon, it could be seen that he was the same as Adjudicator Song. He focused on strength, so he was lacking in speed. After seeing his speed, Yi Xian sneered in his heart. Sure enough, his speed was not fast, about the same as the Azure Sea Flood Dragon. Since that is the case, then become my punching bag. Yi Xian slightly raised the corner of his mouth and instantly burst out with full speed. The Bahuang sword also disintegrated and swept towards Meng San. Humans have many tricks up their sleeves. Meng San coldly snorted and swung his hammer, knocking away the 8 sharp blades one by one. Although his speed was slower, his attack speed was much faster than Yi Xian. In the blink of an eye, the 8 blades were knocked away. Then, Meng San took advantage of this opportunity to rush towards Yi Xian. However, Yi Xian stood in place without moving and maintained his smile. Chapter 332. Super Impact. Captain, watch out! The two shrimps shouted. Meng San, who was running wildly, was startled. Then, he felt a jolt behind him. Something had slammed into him. Whoosh whoosh. He struck out with his hammer and smashed Tian Chong Pao into pieces. What a tough weapon, Meng San muttered to himself. He turned around and continued charging at Yi Xian. Boom! His hammer smashed into the ground, causing it to tremble. However, Yi Xian had already dodged. Deadly wind formation of the 8 Baron, Skybreak. Yi Xian once again controlled the 8 sharp blades to form a cone and drilled it into Meng San's back. Meng San shuddered. He shouted, Kid, my defense is no weaker than the ironback tortoises. Your attack can't do anything to me. Retreat obediently. We just started fighting. Can you cut the crap? Yi Xian's cold voice rang out. Fine, since you want to die, I'll send you on your way. Meng San turned around angrily. He sent Skybreak flying again and charged at Yi Xian. In terms of strength, Yi Xian was definitely not his match. However, in terms of speed, Yi Xian was at least 30% faster than him. This battle was actually a one-sided beating. However, Meng San's defense was indeed strong. Yi Xian's few attempts at breaking through were unable to break through his shell. Looks like I can only use this method of attrition. Yi Xian muttered to himself. After all, his Jindan essence was almost infinite. If Meng San's carapace defense was 100, then Yi Xian felt that as long as he could hit 100 to 99, he would continue. The battle had already lasted for half a minute. In that half a minute, Yi Xian had been running left and right. Meng San could not catch up to him at all. As for Meng San's shell, a faint crack had appeared on it. Crack! A crisp sound rang out, and everyone's expression changed. Yi Xian revealed a gratified smile. He had finally broken through. The carapace on Meng San's back was shattered. If this continued, Meng San would definitely die in his hands. How is this possible? This human brat actually shattered the captain's shell? I must have misheard. The two prawns couldn't believe it. Even Meng San felt the same way. He felt that Yi Xian's attacks were very ordinary. He only felt a slight tremor every time and did not feel anything. But what he didn't know was that Yi Xian was only able to break through his defense by attacking the same spot every time. Meng San was so shocked that he retreated backwards. He said in astonishment, I admit that you are very strong. If you had forcefully passed me, I wouldn't have been able to catch up to you. However, I'm afraid your two companions won't make it, right? Yi Xian also stopped his attacks and calmly looked at Meng San. Indeed, if the three of them had forcefully passed through, then Song Sui Jing and Adjudicator Song would definitely have been stopped. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and said, But I have already broken through your defense. If we continue to fight, then you will die in my hands. At that time, wouldn't I have passed? Correct. If we continue to fight, then I would indeed have died in your hands. Meng San nodded in agreement and said, But have you ever thought that I am only a small team leader and only have the strength of 1 dragon? Above me, there are captains with 2 dragons' strength. Above the captains, there are commanders and generals. The only way to the Bloodstone continent has been blocked by the king of my clan. What do you think your chances of passing through are? This question stumped Yi Xian. Captains, commanders, and generals. Above the generals, there was the king of the Sea Dragon clan. This strength was at least 5 dragons. If he tried to force his way through, it would be impossible for him to pass through, let alone bring along Song Sui Jing and Adjudicator Song. It seems that I will have to increase my strength a bit more before going through. Yi Xian thought to himself. Have you thought it through? If you have, then go back. Meng San said indifferently. To be honest, he was still afraid of death. Yi Xian stood there quietly and pondered. Yi Xian, what should we do? Song Sui Jing walked to his side and asked. Plans couldn't keep up with changes. In the past few years after Yi Chong left, the Deep Sea Palace was occupied by the sea race, and the only way to pass through was blocked. If one were to fly to the Bloodstone continent with a flying mount, they would have to pass through the chaotic astral ocean, where even spirit stage powerhouses could fall. Could it be that I can only kill some saint beasts and force my way through after breaking through? Yi Xian hesitated. His dantian was almost at its limit. When the time came, he would be able to break through to the strength stage after swallowing 10 different beast souls. However, that was only the strength of one dragon. It might be possible to deal with the Sea Dragon clan's captain, but not the commander, let alone the king. Moreover, there were countless experts in the Sea Dragon clan. If he were to force his way through, he would definitely die. You brat, what are you thinking about? The captain spared your life, so you should cherish it. That's right. Quickly retreat. We still need to collect the deep sea blue algae. The fat and thin prawns were shrieking again in a sharp voice. It seems that we can only retreat first. Anyway, there are still 2 or 3 dragon saint beasts in the middle. It's too dangerous for the 3 of us to go. Yi Xian had already made a decision. It seems that you have thought it through. Let's go. Meng Sen looked at Yi Xian and said. However, just as he finished speaking, a voice rang out. Rumble. Suddenly, a loud rumbling sound rang out, and the entire deep-sea palace began to tremble. What's going on? Yi Xian and the others were very surprised. However, Meng San and the others understood the reason. Not good. Senior Tianjing is angry again. Stay calm. Meng San shouted. His whole body shrunk into the shell. The other 2 prawns were scared half to death. They hurriedly threw away the prawns in their hands and grabbed Meng San's pincers tightly. Yi Xian and the other 2 also turned pale with fright. They hurriedly gathered together, and when Yi Xian turned his head to look, he saw a powerful impact instantly blast over. Bang! The 3 of them instantly endured the impact. Yi Xian's feet were firmly planted on the ground. He roared in his heart. What's going on? What a strong impact! This father's nose is going to be crooked. Song Suijing and Song Caijue were also holding his arms tightly, one on each side. As for Meng San and the other 2 prawns, they were already blown away by the impact. The impact had already arrived for 1 second. Yi Xian held on with one hand tightly holding Song Suijing's hand. He must not let go. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. The impact had already passed for 3 seconds, but the worst was yet to come. Boom! An even stronger impact came and instantly disintegrated Yi Xian's strength. The 3 of them were blown away. Not good. Chapter 333. Lost, Yi Xian. Song Suijing opened her eyes wide as she watched Yi Xian and herself getting farther and farther away. No! Yi Xian clenched his teeth and was ready to follow the shockwave, but at this time, he encountered a crossroad. He and the 2 siblings were directly rushed into different passages. The first shockwave lasted for 3 seconds, while the second shockwave lasted for half a minute. It's not over yet. There was a third wave of air that lasted for a full 5 minutes. This time, it's troublesome. Bang! Yi Xian fiercely slammed into a wall, almost breaking his bones, but at this time, he didn't care about this. After safely landing on the ground, he quickly rushed out, ready to go back the way he came. However, it has been 5 minutes since he separated from Song Suijing and Adjudicator Song. In these 5 minutes, he was at least hundreds of thousands of meters away. And in this deep sea, it won't be easy to find the 2. Damn it, what the hell is that? Yi Xian cursed as he hurried along. His curses echoed throughout the passageway. Before the shockwave, Meng Sen said a sentence. Senior Heavenly Whale is angry. It seems that these 3 shockwaves were caused by this Senior Heavenly Whale. Mother Fastress Cur, if I meet you, I will definitely send you flying. Yi Xian continued to curse. He was separated from Song Suijing and Adjudicator Song. If the 2 siblings were together, it would be fine. Under the situation where the 2 joined hands, it would be more than enough to deal with the sacred beast. Yi Xian was afraid that the 2 siblings would also be separated. If Song Suijing encountered the sacred beast alone, it would be very dangerous. No, I must find them. Yi Xian secretly said in his heart. He rushed back at full speed. However, he himself was rushed through dozens of crossroads. It was easier said than done to find Song Suijing and Adjudicator Song. It took him a minute to find the location of the impact, and then he followed his memory. This time, he didn't look at the map. He searched blindly and shouted angrily. Unfortunately, after searching for half an hour, he still couldn't find any clues. Furthermore, even he himself was lost. Damn it! Yi Xian was so angry that he was trembling. The 3 waves of impact just now were like a pipe being unblocked, blowing away everything in this area. There were hundreds of forks in the road, and it took him 5 minutes to rush through them. The road he was on was still fine, as there weren't many Xian beasts or holy beasts, but the same couldn't be said for the other roads. He calmed down and thought for a moment, then began to search again. However, after searching for an hour, he finally encountered the second group of shrimp soldiers and crab generals. However, he had not seen it yet. He had only sensed it. He quickly rushed over. Before he even got close, he heard a series of discussions. It's really terrifying. Senior Tianjing is angry again. Today is the third time, right? There's no other way. Senior Tianjing was attacked by the evil shark clan Cyclops Python some time ago. Its tail was bitten off, and it's still corroding. If it can't be suppressed, it won't be long before Senior Tianjing turns into a pool of stagnant water. Senior Tianjing is our guardian holy beast. If it dies, our sea dragon clan will definitely be swallowed by the evil shark clan. Let's hurry up and collect the deep-sea blue-green algae. This deep-sea blue-green algae can suppress the poison in Senior Tianjing's tail. Their voices echoed throughout the passage. Yi Xian listened from the corner. He thought that this group of shrimp soldiers and crab generals might have encountered Song Sui Jing and Song Caijue. However, just as he was about to go out and ask, he heard other voices. Hey Meng Lu, you guys are here too. Meng Wu, why are you here? Don't mention it. Senior Tianjing rushed to this area just now. I just met the Great Captain. The Great Captain caught 2 humans who offended him and is going to take them back to the Dragon Palace. Oh? Humans? Why are humans in the deep-sea underground palace? I don't know. I heard that these 2 humans want to go to the Bloodrock continent. Are you kidding me? Go to the Bloodrock continent? Don't you know that the middle section of the deep-sea underground palace has been occupied by the evil shark clan? Even Senior Tianjing isn't sure that he can pass through the middle section. How can a few humans do it? The 2 groups of shrimp soldiers and crab generals chatted. Yi Xian, who was eavesdropping in the corner, suddenly trembled. There are only 3 humans in the deep-sea underground palace. One is himself, and the other 2 are naturally Song Sui Jing and Song Caijue. Therefore, the 2 humans captured by the Great Captain are Song Sui Jing and Song Caijue. The merfolk and humans have an agreement. They can't take the initiative to attack, but this is under normal circumstances. If there is a special situation, they can still take action. Yi Xian muttered in his heart. He started to panic as well. Although the 2 siblings were being escorted back to the Dragon Palace, what if they were imprisoned or even executed when they arrived at the Dragon Palace? No, I must save them. Yi Xian made a decision in his heart and directly rushed out. There is movement. The 2 big crabs reacted and immediately turned around. Ha! Why is it another human? The big crab named Meng Wu said in surprise. It seems that he is in cahoots with those 2 humans. Meng Lu said. Yi Xian looked at them and directly asked, Gentlemen, we accidentally entered the deep-sea underground palace. The 2 humans you are talking about are my companions. Can you please let them go? Let them go? Meng Wu and Meng Lu looked at each other. The former immediately said, What a joke, those 2 offended our Great Captain. We are going to take them back to the Dragon Palace to be interrogated. How can we let them go? Since you are in cahoots with them, then let us capture you. Meng Lu added, Let us capture him. What kind of joke is this? If Yi Xian were to let them capture him and take him back to the Dragon Palace like Song Sui Jing and Adjudicator Song, they would be finished. Where did your Great Captain go? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and turned to look at Meng Wu. Why, do you want to catch up with our Great Captain? Let's not talk about his strength first. Do you think you can surpass us? Meng Wu instantly understood Yi Xian's intention. Since you are so confident, why are you afraid that I will know? Yi Xian grinned. His face was full of ridicule. No matter how strong you are, I will not tell you unless you can defeat us. Meng Wu clenched the sledgehammer in his hand. Yi Xian had a map of the deep-sea underground palace in his hand. However, he was running around looking for Song Sui Jing and lost his way. The Sea Tribe was the only way to reach the middle section of the deep-sea underground palace. As long as he could determine his current location, he would be able to find the Dragon Palace. However, it seemed that he had to deal with the 2 big crabs and the 4 big prawns. Chapter 334. One Dragon's Strength. Fine, since you don't want to tell me, I'll beat you until you tell me. Yi Xian's aura instantly soared. The 8 desolate sword in his hand shattered into pieces and turned into 8 sharp blades as they flew towards Meng Wu. Sixth brother, don't do anything, he is mine. Meng Wu shouted out loudly. He grabbed 2 huge hammers with his pincers and charged towards Yi Xian. Meng Wu was the same as Meng San. They both had the strength of one dragon. That was why Yi Xian wasn't that hard to deal with. After all, they couldn't touch him, right? After fighting for half a minute, a crisp sound was heard. It was the sound of a crack appearing on Meng Wu's defensive shell. What an agile guy! Meng Wu, let me help you. Meng Lu shouted out loudly as he charged towards Yi Xian. Facing 2 warriors with the strength of one dragon, even Yi Xian felt pressured. Luckily, he had a 10% increase in movement speed, or else he wouldn't be able to deal with them. A figure was moving around in the middle of the battle. Meng Wu and Meng Lu couldn't keep up with Yi Xian's speed, so they could only attack randomly. After some time, they started to feel weak, because Yi Xian had shattered Meng Lu's shell as well. If they continued fighting, Meng Wu and Meng Lu would definitely die in his hands. Damn it, how can this guy be so fast in the water? He is just a late heavenly core warrior. Meng Wu said with regret. He had a feeling that if he was hit a few more times, his life would be in danger. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly stopped attacking. Brat, we don't need your pity, Meng Wu said angrily. Yi Xian stood not far away and looked at him. There is an agreement between the ocean tribe and the humans. I don't want to kill you, I just want to find my 2 companions. Humph, if you want to find them, we won't tell you. Meng Wu coldly harumphed. Yi Xian squinted his eyes. A killing intent flashed through his eyes. Are you really courting death? So what? We, the ocean tribe, are not afraid of death. Meng Wu shouted out with a deep voice. He was prepared to fight to the death. Meng Lu was the same. If that's the case, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Yi Xian's eyes were filled with killing intent as he instantly attacked. This time, he was filled with killing intent. Gotcha! Tian Chongpa then slammed into Meng Wu's back. At this time, a small hole had been drilled into Meng Wu's shell. There were countless cracks around the hole. Dang! Meng the Fifth went mad. He waved his pincers with all his might, but he could not hit Yi Xian. Gotcha! 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 After 3 crisp sounds, the shell on Meng Wu's back shattered. Not good. Seeing Yi Xian rush towards Meng Wu, Meng Lu also rushed over with his sledgehammer. However, the 8 blades were very agile. After being scattered, they quickly reassembled. Dang! Yi Xian widened his eyes and immediately used Heaven Break. This time, the sharp awl pierced through Meng Wu's body and came out from the front. Plop! Meng Wu's head was crushed and his body fell to the ground. Human, you deserve to die. Meng Lu went mad and rushed towards Yi Xian. Not only that, the 4 prawns also shouted that they wanted to kill Yi Xian. Killing 1 is killing. Killing 10 is also killing. Since you have already killed, then all of you should die. Yi Xian's eyes were filled with killing intent as he attacked again. A few seconds later, Meng Lu's shell was also broken and the Bahuang sword pierced through his body. As for the 4 prawns, they were cut into pieces by the Bahuang sword. I didn't want to be your enemy, but you are courting death. Yi Xian coldly snorted and went over to collect the corpses and weapons. Moreover, he found 6 human interspatial rings. Devour. He first devoured the weapons of the 6 people and found that all of them were of high quality, comparable to Adjudicator Song's flaming sun axe. Then he tried again, and found out that he could actually devour the corpses of the Sea Clan. Since they can be devoured, they should be a type of beast. But they can even use interspatial rings. This Sea Clan is quite strange. Yi Xian thought to himself and decided to devour all 6 corpses. Not enough. However, there were still many good things in the interspatial rings of the 6 sea tribe members. Haha, as expected, there are so many Saint Beast corpses and Saint Beast souls, devour them all. Yi Xian directly devoured all the items in the interspatial rings. Ding, the host has broken through to the heavenly core realm. Do you wish to break your core? Yes. After Yi Xian answered in his mind, a crisp sound was heard. The mortal core, earth core, and heaven core in his dantian had all shattered. In an instant, his cultivation returned to 0, and all the core energies in his body were gone. After breaking the core, it was time to condense the soul. Normally, when a warrior condensed his soul, he would need a lot of soul condensing stones and saint beast souls. This was a very dangerous stage, as the warrior would lose all his cultivation base, and he would need someone to protect him. When it came to the soul condensing stage, a warrior with good talent might only need a single soul condensing stone, but there were also those who couldn't condense their soul condensing stone even after consuming hundreds of them. But the devouring system had clearly stated that he only needed 10 different saint beast souls. Not to mention the ones that Xianxia had collected himself, there were more than 30 saint beast souls in the interspatial rings alone. When Xianxia had finished devouring 10 different saint beast souls, the long-awaited system notification finally sounded out. Ding, the host has broken through to the physical strength realm. You now possess the strength of 1 dragon. Hearing this, Xianxia couldn't help but smile. He had finally broken through to the physical strength realm. Although his physique was strong before, it was still too weak when compared to the strength of 1 dragon. He wondered how many dragons of strength he would gain if he upgraded his myriad beasts bloodline to the Beast King bloodline. Moreover, after breaking through, the Dan essence in his body would directly transform into true Qi, making him even stronger. Now that he had the strength of 1 dragon, his physique was at least 3 times stronger than before, and his speed had also increased by 3 times. Moreover, the Bahuang sword's enhancement was getting stronger and stronger. He estimated that it had reached the level of a low-grade celestial artifact. But then, he encountered another problem. He didn't know where he was now, and didn't know which path the leader had taken. In the deep-sea maze, there was only one path that led to the blood granite continent. The rest of the paths were all crisscrossing, forming a huge maze. So, he just needed to find the location of the Dragon Palace, and then intercept the leader before he returned to the Dragon Palace. As for how to find the Dragon Palace of the Sea Dragon clan, that would depend on luck. After all, the path to the west was a dead end. There was no time to lose, and he immediately set off. After breaking through, his speed had already far surpassed that of ordinary holy beasts, and he could definitely contend with the strength of 2 dragons. Even if he encountered that captain, he would still have the strength to fight. Chapter 335. Battle Leader. At this time, it had already been half an hour since Xianxia killed Meng 5 and Meng 6. During this half an hour, he was still running around and had encountered quite a few saint beasts and shrimp soldiers and crab generals. However, these shrimp soldiers were very tight-lipped. They would rather die than reveal the location of the Dragon Palace. Just as Xianxia was thinking about whether or not to surrender and let these shrimp soldiers and crab generals bring him to the Dragon Palace, he finally encountered a different creature. With the help of his supersonic bat bloodline, Xianxia could sense that this was a half-human, half-snake creature. It had no legs, and its lower body was that of a snake. Its upper body was that of a human, but it was a little strange. It wasn't wearing any clothes, and its back was bare. In its hand, it was holding a crescent blade. Looks like you're the Sea Tribe's captain. Let me meet you. Xianxia opened his eyes wide and dashed forward. When he saw this half-human, half-snake creature, he was startled. Wasn't this a Naga siren? Naga siren, they had appeared in many games, and Xianxia was no stranger to them. But too bad, this Naga siren was a male. What was exposed wasn't its chest, but its chest. Human. The Naga siren was surprised when it saw Xianxia. You Sea Tribe kidnapped 2 of my companions. Where are they now? Xianxia took out the 8 desolate sword and asked in a cold voice. But unexpectedly, after the Naga siren heard what Xianxia said, it showed a gloating expression. So those 2 humans had companions. Humph, I was the one who captured them just now, but now they have been taken away by the commander. What? Commander? Xianxia's entire body trembled. Among the sea dragons, apart from the ordinary shrimp soldiers who were at the heavenly core realm, the crab generals were all captains who had the strength of 1 dragon. Above the captains were captains who had the strength of 2 dragons, which was this Naga siren. In Xianxia's estimation, a commander was a powerful Sea Tribe member who possessed the strength of 3 or even 4 dragons. He hadn't fought with this Naga siren yet, so he didn't know how strong this captain was. If he couldn't even deal with this Naga siren, then he would definitely be chopped to death by the leader of the Sea Dragon clan. Haha, human, I can see the fear in your eyes. The Naga siren laughed, and the scales on her body trembled, sparkling in the light. Although I am afraid, I am not afraid of you. Where did they go? Yi Xian asked in a cold tone. What? You still want to chase after him? Hee hee. I reckon that our commander has already arrived at the Dragon Palace. Right, our Sea Dragon Clan's princess loves to raise animals the most. Your two companions should be directly offered to the princess by our commander. The Naga Siren said with a gloating smile. Right next, I will capture you and offer you to the princess. After hearing his words, Yi Xian's expression sank to the bottom of the valley. Song Suijing and Song Caijue were actually going to be treated like slaves. How could that be? Tell me the whereabouts of the commander, and I will spare your life. Yi Xian's eyes surged with killing intent. What kind of joke is this? The Naga Siren's eyes suddenly widened. Her snake body instantly slithered and swept towards Yi Xian. So fast. Yi Xian's heart trembled. It seemed that this captain had some ability. Her speed was actually catching up with him. However, if he couldn't even break through the captain, then how could he rescue Song Suijing and Judge Song? How could he go to the Blood Cliff continent? Kill. Yi Xian clenched his Bahuang sword and rushed forward. This Naga Siren had the strength of 2 dragons. With a single slash, it could probably shatter the shell of the giant crab. Therefore, it was impossible for Yi Xian to face her head-on. Bahuang sword, release. Bahuang wind killing array. 8 sharp blades instantly unfolded and swept towards the Naga Siren. Humph. Insignificant skill. The Naga Siren didn't care at all. She waved her long sword and shook off the 8 sharp blades. However, this was of no use. Bahuang wind killing array. Second layer. Yi Xian's eyes flashed. The 8 blades that were rotating at high speed suddenly started to rotate, forming 8 small awls. The first layer of Bahuang wind killing array was to use sharp blades to cut, and the second layer was the same as Tian Chong's. This was what Yi Xian learned after breaking through to the strength realm. Not only that, there was also an advanced version of Bahuang Heavenly Shaking Sword, called Bahuang Dragon Slaying Sword. However, it needed to be soaked in the blood of a wyvern to activate it. Ha! The contempt on the Naga Siren's face disappeared quietly and was replaced by a dignified expression. He didn't expect that a mere human could have such strength. You're too naive to think that you can defeat me like this. Wave-breaking sword technique. The Naga Siren waved her arms and a strange energy gushed out and attached to the long sword. Not only did the attack power increase, but the speed of her attack also increased. Clang! 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 The sound of weapons colliding rang in the passage. Yi Xian frowned. He didn't expect that the sea race would have martial arts. However, it was no wonder that they didn't have true qi or dantian core. How could they use the interspatial ring? However, he had a large number of devouring crystals. A pill that could instantly restore all the true qi of an expert was just a drop in the ocean for him. Although he couldn't resist the Naga Siren, he could still engage in a battle of attrition. What a pity! I should have found the blood of a sacred beast Jiao dragon. Then, I could directly upgrade my 1000 beasts bloodline to Beast King bloodline. My strength would skyrocket. Yi Xian was in a dilemma. He had been in the Deep Sea Palace for some time, but he still hadn't encountered a Jiao dragon. He still lacked the blood of a Jiao dragon. There were different and special requirements to upgrade the Sword Emperor bloodline and other bloodlines to the highest level. It wasn't something that he could accomplish now. He began to hesitate. Now, he was fighting with the captain of the Naga Siren. If he couldn't even win against the Naga Siren, it would be impossible for him to win against the commander-level sea race. It was even more impossible to save Song Suijing and Adjudicator Song. He was unwilling to accept this. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly felt something and immediately opened his eyes wide. He found that Wei Zhentian, who was in the interspatial ring, had a breakthrough at this moment. Sacred Beast, 1 dragon's strength. Come out, Wei Zhentian. Yi Xian instantly summoned Wei Zhentian. Even if Wei Zhentian had a breakthrough, his body was still only the size of a palm. After he appeared, he was stunned for a moment. Don't look, kill. Chapter 336. Beast King Bloodline. Wei Zhentian nodded. It had only been a few months since it was born, but it had already reached the level of a holy beast. Yi Xian had contributed a lot to this. In addition, Yi Xian was its master. Now that it needed its power, it would naturally help. In an instant, Wei Zhentian began to collapse and then reassemble. This time, it was not a cute rabbit or a kitten, but a 3-meter-tall stone giant with a big stone sword in its hand. Bang! Wei Zhentian's sword slashed the ground, and the entire tunnel shook violently. The power of this sword could probably split the shell of a big crab. So strong! You deserve to be trained by me. Kill! Yi Xian was overjoyed and activated the second level of the 8 Baron Wind Formation. The second level of the 8 Baron Wind Formation was very difficult to deal with. Even if the Naga Siren used martial arts, it could only protect itself. Now that Wei Zhentian was an enemy, the pressure on him immediately increased. Damn it! What is this thing? The Naga Siren clenched his teeth and held on. He had to block the 8 sharp awls coming from all directions while dodging Wei Zhentian's sword attack. He could not go on like this. Therefore, he wanted to retreat. While blocking, he retreated and looked for an opportunity to escape. You want to run? Yi Xian saw through the Naga Siren's intention and immediately shouted, Little Tian, use your full strength. Wei Zhentian understood and changed again. This time, 2 pairs of arms grew out from his back. 3 big swords were slashed at the Naga Siren. What the hell is this thing? The Naga Siren was shocked and immediately raised his long sword above his head. However, when the 3 big swords fell, they suddenly changed. The tip of the sword extended and formed a bob. Rip! The 3 sharp barbs pierced through the scales of the Naga Siren and pierced into his body. Good chance! Yi Xian's eyes flashed. The 8 sharp awls took advantage of this opportunity and directly drilled into the Naga Siren's body. Rip! The green blood gushed out of the Naga Siren's body, and its screams echoed throughout the tunnel. Little Tian, give him a fatal blow. Yi Xian shouted. The 8 blades pierced into the Naga Siren's body. Not only could they cause damage to the Naga Siren, but they could also restrict its movements. Hearing that, Wei Zhentian withdrew the 3 swords and condensed a pole. No, this was a pole. Wei Zhentian held the pole with 3 hands and threw it with all his might. Swish! In an instant, it pierced through the space of tens of meters and pierced into the chest of the Naga Siren. The Naga Siren looked down in disbelief. This is impossible. After spitting out these words, he closed his eyes and died. 8 sharp blades flew out of his body. Without support, his corpse fell limply to the ground. Whew! After seeing the death of the Naga Siren, Yi Xian heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that he still had the ability to kill an expert with the strength of 2 dragons. Wei Zhentian also changed back, but he looked like he was about to collapse. Okay, these weapons are all yours. Yi Xian directly took out the weapons of the shrimp soldiers and crab generals. Thank you for your hard work. Go back and rest. Yi Xian continued. He also understood that every time Wei Zhentian fought, it would need to replenish itself. Moreover, it would need to rest for a period of time. This was different from other saint beasts. Wei Zhentian returned to the physical space. Yi Xian quickly stepped forward and kept the weapons, corpse, and the interspatial ring of the Naga Siren. He wanted to see what good things were in the interspatial ring of the Naga Siren. However, when he immersed his consciousness into the interspatial ring and checked it, he was pleasantly surprised. A flood dragon's corpse. It's a flood dragon's corpse. There's actually a flood dragon's corpse in this ring. Yi Xian was surprised and happy at the same time. He had never seen this flood dragon before. In other words, this flood dragon was not the Azure Sea flood dragon or the black gold flood dragon. His blood would be distinguished by the devouring system. Haha, the heavens are helping me. Yi Xian laughed 3 times and dissected the flood dragon corpse. The 3rd portion of dragon blood was obtained. This meant that he could upgrade the 1000 Beasts bloodline to the Beast King bloodline. Ding! The host has obtained the Beast King bloodline. The current level can be merged. Do you wish to merge? Yes. Yi Xian replied in his heart. In the next moment, he felt an endless amount of energy surging out of his body. There were even noises in his ears. The roar of a tiger, the roar of a lion, the roar of a flood dragon. All kinds of beast roars entered his ears. Ding! The host has successfully merged with the Beast King bloodline. Yi Xian quickly checked and found that the Beast King bloodline had many abilities. First, the attack power of non-human beasts was increased. Second, the benefits of devouring beast corpses were increased. Other than that, he also obtained a skill, Beast King Rampage. After using Beast King Rampage, he could temporarily increase his strength by 30%. As expected of a top-notch bloodline. It's so powerful. Yi Xian could not help but exclaim. He clenched his fists tightly. Then, 3 mini flying dragons rose up. The strength of 3 dragons. He felt it and found that the strength in his golden dantian had increased significantly. Although it only increased my strength by 2 dragons, it's enough for me to reach the Dragon Palace. If I use Beast King Rampage, my strength will be close to the strength of 4 dragons. At this moment, he could not help but feel a surge of confidence that he had never felt before. His heart sank again. He found that there were 3 more advancement paths for the Beast King bloodline. Beast King bloodline. Advancement Path 1. Strength. Current advancement is 0. Every advancement will increase the strength of both hands by 10%. Advancement Path 2. Agility. Current advancement is 1. Every advancement will increase the movement speed by 10%. Advancement Path 3. Beast Growth Speed. Current advancement is 0. Every advancement will increase the growth speed of Beast by 10%. Advancement Path 4. Beast Attributes. Current advancement is 0. Every advancement will increase the attributes of all beasts by 10%. Advancement Path 5. Beast Expansion. Current advancement is 0. Every advancement will allow 1 more beast to be tamed. Advancement Path 6. Beast King Deterrence. Current advancement is 1. Every advancement will increase the attack power of beasts by 10%. Advancement Path 7. Devouring Benefits. Current advancement is 1. Every advancement will increase the devouring benefits of beast corpses by 10%. Advancement Path 8. Beast King Rampage. Current advancement is 3. Every advancement will increase the strength of the beasts by 10%. Fortunately, after upgrading the 1000 Beasts bloodline to the Beast King bloodline, the 10% agility advancement did not return to 0. Yi Xian breathed a sigh of relief. Chapter 337. Dragon Palace. This Naga siren is the captain who caught the 2 of them. It seems that I didn't find the wrong way. Chase. Yi Xian immediately rushed out. With the power of 3 dragons, his speed was at least 10 times faster than before. He didn't dare to delay any longer because the Naga siren said that the commander of the sea folk might have already arrived at the Dragon Palace. However, with his current strength, even if the commander had returned to the Dragon Palace, he would still break in. Somewhere in the deep-sea underground palace, there was a huge palace. At this time, 3 figures appeared outside the walls of these huge palaces. Open the door. A 6-armed Naga siren carrying 2 humans yelled from below. The sea race guards on the city walls poked their heads out to take a look and immediately said, Commander Lei has returned. Open the city gates. The special gate was opened, and the 6-armed Naga siren walked in. The 2 humans in his hands were Song Suijing and Song Jueyuan, who were separated from Yi Xian. However, they had already fainted. Welcome back, Commander Lei. A group of shrimp soldiers and crab generals shouted respectfully. Commander Lei twisted his body and walked in. This was the palace of the Sea Dragon clan, and Commander Lei was a pivotal figure in the Sea Dragon clan. A group of shrimp soldiers and crab generals looked at his back and whispered. Hey! Isn't Commander Lei going back to his residence? Look, doesn't Commander Lei look like a human? It's really... I know, Commander Lei must have gone to see the king and wanted to hand these 2 humans over to the king. Haha, Her Royal Highness has 1 more sex toy. TSK. TSK. Who knows, Commander Lei might become the princess's husband in no time at all. However, not long after Commander Lei entered, a figure suddenly flashed in the distance. That's the Dragon Palace? Yi Xian looked at the huge wall thousands of meters away and couldn't help but mutter. He didn't expect that there would be such a building in the deep-sea palace. Previously, he had tried to destroy the walls of the tunnel. Even though he had the strength of 3 dragons, he was unable to leave a mark on the walls. How was this palace built? At this time, the gate of Dragon Palace was closed. If he had come a little earlier, he might have been able to see Song Suijing and Adjudicator Song. Unfortunately, he was still a little late. Damn it, they must have been caught inside. Yi Xian blamed himself in his heart. If he had known earlier, he would have come down to investigate. Why did he drag Song Suijing and Judge Song into this mess? Looks like I can only use one method. With this thought in mind, Yi Xian dashed out of the maze. The group of prawn soldiers and crab generals saw him from afar and immediately gathered on the city wall. Human? Why is there another human? A Naga siren walked up to the city wall and shouted, Human, how did you get here? Yi Xian was too lazy to pay attention to him. He rushed to the bottom of the city gate and punched it. Bang! A huge sound spread out. This Naga siren was just a captain. It was useless for Yi Xian to talk to him. He had to cause a big commotion. At least a commander had to come. What a strong power. Quickly inform Commander Wu that there is an enemy attack. The Naga siren immediately shouted. Bang! 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 Yi Xian punched the city gate again and again. Every time he punched, the city wall would tremble. This city gate is really hard. It can actually withstand the attack of my strength of 3 dragons. Unfortunately, there is a formation on the city wall. Only by breaking the gate can I enter. Yi Xian thought in his heart. Suddenly, he retreated and took out his Bahuang sword. Bahuang wind-killing formation. The 8 blades rotated at high speed and then drilled into the same place in an orderly manner. The 8 blades were constantly alternating and attacking. It was much more effective than Yi Xian's fist. In less than a few seconds, a crack appeared on the city gate. Human, you are courting death. Stop! This city gate is specially made. If you break it, how are we going to defend against the saint beasts? The group of shrimp soldiers on the city wall hurriedly shouted. Yi Xian also stopped and shouted, Your commander has captured 2 of my companions. If you don't want me to break the city gate, then hand them over. Sure enough, this human is the companion of Commander Lei's 2 captives. Ah, Commander Wu is here. Open the city gate. Along with a resounding shout, the city gate opened, and a 6-armed sea demon walked out. Human, why are you attacking the Sea Dragon clan? The 6-armed siren said in a deep voice. Then I have to ask you, why did you capture my 2 companions? Yi Xian replied coldly. Companions? Human? Commander Wu also turned his head in surprise and looked at a Naga siren. Just now, Commander Lei captured 2 humans. The Naga siren said. Human, since Commander Lei has captured them, then there must be a reason. But you are causing a ruckus here. You don't put my Sea Dragon clan in your eyes. Commander Wu glared and took out 6 large blades. Yi Xian looked at him expressionlessly and said, If that's the case, then I won't say much. I will let you know that you have provoked the wrong person. Xiao. In an instant, Yi Xian rushed out and slashed with the 8 Desolation Greatsword. Clang! Commander Wu stretched out 2 hands to block, but in the next moment, his expression froze because he found that 2 hands were not enough to block Yi Xian. He immediately used 2 more hands to block. As for the remaining 2 hands, they slashed towards Yi Xian from afar. Damn it, are you bullying me because I don't have enough hands? Yi Xian's eyes flashed and suddenly detonated the 8 Desolation Greatsword. Wang! Commander Wu was shocked, but when he found that the sound attack had no effect on him, he twisted his body and rushed toward Yi Xian. Sure enough, the 8 Desolation Heaven-Shaking Sword is useless against a Strength Realm expert. Yi Xian said in his heart as he dodged the 2 slashes. Since that was the case, then he would meet force with force. He retrieved the 8 swords and reassembled the 8 Desolation Greatsword, then rushed out. Although both of them did not have Tian Realm martial arts and both of them had the strength of 3 dragons, Yi Xian had the Beast King bloodline in his body, which increased the attack power of beasts by 10%. Moreover, he had a 10% increase in movement speed. Even if the opponent had 6 arms, he was not afraid at all. The 6-armed siren did not expect Yi Xian to be so difficult to deal with. After a few rounds, he felt some pressure. Chapter 338. Chapter 338, New Orca Prince of the Sea, Despicable Human, Taste This Move, Whirlwind Clouds. At this time, the 6-armed sea demon's entire body suddenly began to rotate. The 6 large blades slashed out one after another as he rotated. Not only that, but his movement speed also increased by a lot. Not good. Quickly close the city gates. The group of shrimp soldiers and crab generals, as well as the captain-level Naga sirens, hastily retreated. In an instant, the 6-armed sea demon formed a tornado, continuously slashing out wind blades, and at the same time, pulling in the surrounding things. A hard rock was pulled over, and in an instant, it was shredded into powder. You do have some skills. Seeing this, Yi Xian hurriedly turned around, dodging the wind blades as he tried to get out of the traction circle. However, the tornado was able to chase after him. It seems that this is the only way. Yi Xian's eyes flashed, and some of the Saint Beast corpses in the devouring space instantly disappeared. Shortly after, Yi Xian's aura skyrocketed. 4 wyverns soared into the sky. This meant that Yi Xian's current strength was equivalent to the strength of 4 dragons. Beast King Rampage. Originally, he only had the strength of 3 dragons. Logically speaking, after using Beast King Rampage, he would not be able to reach 4 dragons. However, his constitution was actually not only the power of 3 dragons. Instead, it was between 3 and 4 dragons. Therefore, after using Beast King Rampage, his strength reached 4 dragon strength. Charge. After his physique soared, Yi Xian took out the 8 Desolation Greatsword again. He wielded the 8 Desolation Greatsword, which was condensed from true energy, and swung it at Commander Wu. Pang! 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 The 8 Desolation Greatsword shattered the countless wind blades and swept into the tornado. What? The 6-armed sea demon was startled. When he saw the 4 flying dragons emerging from Yi Xian's body, he knew that something was wrong. However, Yi Xian's attack speed was too fast, and he couldn't stop the whirlwind at all. Therefore, he could only face it head-on. However, with a gap of 1 dragon, Commander Wu was directly sent flying by the sword. After spurting out a mouthful of blood, he crashed into the city wall. Fortunately, his 3 dragons' strength physique was only 1 dragon's difference from Yi Xian's. Otherwise, this strike would definitely have cut him in half. Hand them over and I'll spare your life. Yi Xian walked over coldly. Although he had already killed quite a number of shrimp soldiers and crab generals, the news had not spread. At this moment, he was outside the Dragon Palace. If he killed Commander Wu, things would get out of hand. Don't be so arrogant. You only possess the strength of 4 dragons, that's all. You still can't fight against our Sea Dragon clan. Captain Wu crawled up while clutching his bleeding chest. Cut the crap. If you don't want to die, then hand him over. Yi Xian couldn't be bothered to waste his breath. Impossible. Commander Wu said firmly. Then do you want to die? Yi Xian was also enraged. Now that he was in front of the Dragon Palace, if he still couldn't rescue Song Sui Jing and Adjudicator Song, then he might as well fight to the death. If you have the guts, then come and kill me. Commander Wu said with a fearless expression. Good. Yi Xian coldly shouted. Suddenly, 4 dragons flew out from his body. They carried the great desolate sword and directly charged towards Commander Wu. He didn't want to kill people in the Dragon Palace and didn't want to make things worse. However, there was no way out now. He could only kill Commander Wu and then break through the Dragon Palace's gate and rush in. Die! Yi Xian rushed in front of Commander Wu and then slashed down with his sword. However, at this moment, the Dragon Palace's gate suddenly cracked open and a figure flashed out from it. Pang! The great desolate sword was blocked by this figure. Who is it? Yi Xian squinted his eyes and in the next moment, his face turned pale. It turned out to be a human. A man holding a long sword. A human! Yi Xian subconsciously shouted and put away the great desolate sword in surprise. No, I am from the Sea Clan. I just used a special method to transform my legs into human legs. The man smiled and shook his head. Then who are you? Yi Xian asked curiously. Just now, he accurately saw 4 dragons flying out from the man's body. In other words, this man had the strength of 4 dragons. This man was probably not an ordinary member of the Sea Clan. The man continued to smile and said, Yu Yi, the Prince of the Sea Dragon Clan. Prince? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. It seemed that the main character had finally arrived. So you're here to take care of me on his behalf? Yi Xian asked cautiously. Hearing this, Yu Yi shook his head and said, No, the Sea Clan and the humans have an agreement. Moreover, my Sea Dragon Clan's ancestors also had some relations with the humans. Therefore, I won't do anything to you. If that's the case, then bring out my 2 companions. Yi Xian wouldn't believe him so easily. Companions? Yu Yi turned his head and looked at the 6-armed sea demon. Your Highness, Commander Lei brought 2 humans back. It seems that he wants to present them to the princess. Commander Wu hurriedly explained. Nonsense. Yu Yi angrily rebuked. This Lei Ming is really rebellious. Doesn't he know that my Sea Dragon clan's bloodline has human blood? After he finished speaking, he turned to Yi Xian and cupped his fists. Sorry, this is a misunderstanding. Please follow me. Follow you? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes again. This Yu Yi's performance was a little out of his expectations. At this time, Yi Xian had two guesses in his heart. First, this Yu Yi didn't have any intentions. It was true that he had human blood in his body. He didn't want to be enemies with him. Second, this Yu Yi had already set a trap in the Dragon Palace. However, according to Yi Xian's own feelings, he felt that Yu Yi wasn't hostile. After all, this Yu Yi had the strength of 4 dragons. There must be other experts in the Dragon Palace. If they wanted to catch him, there was no need to set a trap. Okay, I will follow you. Yi Xian finally made such a decision. How can one catch a tiger cub without entering the tiger's den? If he didn't go in, was he going to wait for the other party to send Song Suijing and Adjudicator Song out? Thank you for your trust. Please follow me. Yu Yi politely extended his hand and gestured Yi Xian to go in. This sea race has some human etiquette. Yi Xian secretly said in his heart. He stepped in, but he didn't put away the Bahuang's sword in his hand. Yu Yi also smiled and walked in front of Yi Xian. While leading the way, he asked, May I know your name? Yi Xian. Yi Xian directly replied. It's just a name, it doesn't matter. Brother Yi has the strength of 4 dragons at such a young age. The heavenly water continent is really full of talents. Yu Yi said with a smile. When Yi Xian heard the words heavenly water continent, Yi Xian couldn't help but ask, Have you been to the heavenly water continent? Chapter 339. Scared but not in danger, Yi Xian was also helpless. He had heard of beasts and demons, but he had never heard of a human and a flood dragon having offspring. Yu Yi seemed to have seen through Yi Xian's doubts. He smiled and said, Haha, sire, don't think too much. My Sea Dragon clan's ancestor had eaten a transformation grass, so she could transform into a human form. When she was training in the human world, she fell in love with a man, so. Transformation grass, a heavenly treasure that can transform a saint beast into a human form. After hearing Yu Yi's explanation, Yi Xian also understood. If both of them were humans, then it would make sense. However, Yi Xian didn't care about this. What he cared about was the safety of Song Suijing and Song Caijue. Yu Yi seemed to be very good at reading humans' expression. After seeing Yi Xian's expression, he smiled and said, Brother Yi, don't worry. Although my little sister likes to collect all kinds of creatures, she would never treat humans as sex objects. But that Lei Ming. He paused for a moment and didn't continue. Yi Xian didn't ask any more and followed him to the residence of the Sea Dragon clan's princess. Let's see Song Suijing first. Soon, the two of them arrived at a large palace with luxurious decorations. Before they reached the entrance, they saw all kinds of mystical beasts and saint beasts chained on pillars. There were dozens of them. Flood dragon again. Yi Xian's eyes popped out. There were 6 flood dragons in the cage, and all of them were saint beasts. After fusing with the Beast King bloodline, he learned a skill, which was the Beast King's rampage that he used just now. The Beast King's rampage required a condition, and that was the corpse of a saint beast. Moreover, different realms required different levels of saint beast corpses. In any case, a large number of saint beast corpses were required every time. These are my little sister's sex objects. She likes to catch saint beasts. Yu Yi introduced. Yi Xian's mood was a little complicated. If he saw his fiancé and brother-in-law being chained up here, he would probably go berserk in an instant. At this moment, they suddenly saw a figure walking out of the palace. His expression was not very good, as if he had been wronged. He as expected. Yu Yi grinned. Although this Lei Ming is strong, his brain isn't good. With this kind of IQ, he wants to compete for the position of general of my Sea Dragon clan? When the ashen-faced Commander Lei saw Yu Yi, he was startled. Then, he respectfully greeted, Greetings, Your Highness. This is... I don't need you to ask about my matters. Let's go. As Yu Yi spoke, he directly led Yi Xian into the palace. Lei Ming's face was gloomy. There were only a few people in Dragon Palace who could transform into human form. Therefore, Yi Xian was a human. Yu Yi led Yi Xian into the palace. As soon as they entered, they heard voices. After hearing this, the large rock in Yi Xian's heart also fell. Song Suijing and Song Caijue were both fine. "Brother, why are you here? Hey, is it another human?" A clear and beautiful voice sounded out. Yi Xian focused his eyes and discovered that a petite voice had flown over. It was a girl around 15 years old. Her appearance was not much different from a human's. Her face was white and delicate, but her ears were the ears of the sea race. Yi Xian. After this little girl, two figures rushed over. One of them threw herself into Yi Xian's arms. It was Song Suijing. "It's good that you are okay." Yi Xian gently patted Song Suijing's back and breathed a sigh of relief. "Brother Yi, these are your two companions. I'm sorry, it was a misunderstanding. You were frightened." Yu Yi said guiltily. "Your Highness is too serious. Thank you for your help." Yi Xian cupped his fists gratefully. "It was a misunderstanding. My Sea Dragon clan moved here and this is the first time I saw a human. I hope you can forgive us." Yu Yi also cupped his fists. At this time the little girl exclaimed, "Brother, that Lei Ming is getting more and more perverted. He even caught Judge Song Suijing and Judge Song Suijing. He wants to use them as my sex toys. Did he do it on purpose?" "I'm not very clear about it, but our Sea Dragon clan has been around for 1,000 years, and Lei Ming is a 6-armed sea monster, so he's not one of us, so it's understandable that he forgot." Yu Yi replied and at the same time introduced, "This is my younger sister Yuman. Brother, why are you still helping Lei Ming? He is ugly and annoying. He comes to me for no reason. Can't you restrict his access?" The little girl said with some dissatisfaction. "We'll see when the time comes." Yu Yi had a headache. Commander Lei Minglei was a 6-armed sea demon of the sea race, while he was a flood dragon. More importantly, Lei Ming's father was a general in their clan. He was in charge of protecting the Sea Dragon clan. In other words, the military power of the Sea Dragon clan was in the hands of General Lei. Therefore, he didn't want to make things too awkward. "Forget it. After a while, I will be able to transform into a human. At that time, I will go to the mainland and get rid of Lei Lu Shou." Yu Man pouted. When Yu Yi heard this he hurriedly said, "No, you are still in the spirit condensation realm. You haven't even reached the physical strength realm. How can you go to the shore?" "Wait until I transform," Yu Man said. Then she turned her head and said, "Big brother Judge, can you take me with you when the time comes?" Judge Song scratched his head. He didn't know what to say. "All right, the heavenly water continent isn't that big of a deal. After you condense your physical strength, I will take you there." Yu Yi thought for a moment and nodded in the end. "Who said that I want to go to the heavenly water continent? If Big Brother Judge wants to go to the Bloodcliff continent, then so do I." Yu Man immediately corrected him. "What kind of joke is that? The route to the Bloodcliff continent is currently occupied by the vicious Shark clan. Even Father and Senior Tianjing aren't confident that they can pass through. How can you pass through?" Yu Yi frowned. "Woo." Yu Man obediently shut her mouth. She was also clear about the difference between the Sea Dragon clan and the vicious Shark clan. After thinking for a moment she turned her head and said, "Then, Big Brother Judge, can you take me to the heavenly water continent?" Judge Song nodded. "Sure." Yu Man had saved their lives, so it was only right that they repay her. When Yu Yi saw this, he couldn't help but exchange a glance with Yi Xian. "This doesn't feel right. This young lady, why do I feel that she isn't close to Judge Song, but instead to brother-in-law? Could it be that she has taken a fancy to brother-in-law?" Yi Xian thought. Chapter 340. Seeing the devourer beast again. "Don't think too much about it, it's not me anyway," Yi Xian thought to himself. Since it was just a misunderstanding, there was no need for him to be so hostile towards Yu Yi. After all, these two siblings were his saviors. After chatting for a while, Yi Xian also understood that Yu Yi and Yu Man were flood dragons, not nagas or sea demons. At this time, Yi Xian remembered that he had killed some shrimp soldiers and crab generals, so he immediately apologized to Yu Yi. "Sigh, there's no other way, but my Sea Dragon clan's forces are indeed lacking. After some time, I'm afraid we won't be able to resist the vicious shark clan. Yu shook his head helplessly. I heard that the road to the Blood Cliff continent has been occupied by the vicious shark clan, and no one can pass through it? Yi Xian turned and asked. Yes, the vicious shark clan occupies the middle section of the deep-sea underground palace. If you want to go to the Blood Cliff continent, you have to pass through the vicious shark clan. The difference between my Sea Dragon clan's forces and the vicious shark clan's forces is too big. My imperial father only has the strength of 5 dragons, and Senior Tianjing only has the strength of 6 dragons. The vicious shark clan has an expert with the strength of 6 dragons, and a cyclops with the strength of 7 dragons. We are not their opponents at all, so we can only move around the front section of the deep-sea underground palace, not daring to go to the middle section. Yu shook his head repeatedly. Senior Tianjing is. Adjudicator Song couldn't help asking. The reason why they came to this dragon palace was because they were blown away by the shockwave. Senior Tianjing is a sky whale flood dragon. It was once the mount of my sea dragon ancestor. After my sea dragon ancestor passed away, it was responsible for guarding my sea dragon clan, Yuman explained. However, some time ago, when Senior Tianjing left the deep-sea underground palace, it was suddenly attacked by the vicious shark clan's Cyclops python. Its tail was bitten off, and the Cyclops python also left poison in its body, causing Senior Tianjing's body to corrode bit by bit, causing unbearable pain, Yu added. After hearing this, Yi Xian also understood where the shockwave came from. By the way, can Senior Tianjing leave the deep-sea underground palace? Yi Xian suddenly asked. Yes, both of our clans can enter and leave the deep-sea underground palace. Then, before Yi Xian could finish, Yu interrupted. That won't do. Right now, the sea isn't very peaceful. A large number of saint beasts are hunting the Oceanids. For example, in the sky above the deep-sea underground palace, there are several saint beasts with the strength of 10 dragons roaming around. There are also countless saint beasts. The strength of 10 dragons. When Yi Xian and the other two heard this, they couldn't help but gulp. A sacred beast with the strength of 10 dragons was enough to annihilate the Sea Dragon clan and the vicious Shark clan. It seemed that the Sea Dragon clan and the evil Shark clan had entered the deep-sea underground palace in order to avoid the pursuit of these saint beasts. If he wanted to go to the Blood Rock continent, he would have to go through the deep-sea underground palace. Brother Yi, it's not that we don't want to help you, but we have no other choice. Yu shook his head helplessly. Yi Xian fell silent. Seeing the strange atmosphere, Yuman hurriedly pulled Adjudicator Song's arm and said, Big brother Adjudicator, why don't I take you to see my body? Oh, okay. Adjudicator Song nodded. Yi Xian and Song Sui Jing looked at each other and immediately followed her. If the deep-sea underground palace was really like this, then they could only return to the Sky Water continent and discuss countermeasures with the Great Elder. They would like to see if the Great Elder could take them around the chaotic astral ocean and reach the Blood Rock continent. Big brother Adjudicator, look, these are my body. Yuman pulled Adjudicator Song out and began to introduce the sacred beasts and spirit beasts that were tied up outside the palace. However, at this time, Yi Xian, who was casually browsing, suddenly found an extraordinary sacred beast. When Yi Xian saw the symbol on the sacred beast, his body slightly trembled. It was a giant blue crab. Its body was almost the size of a tank. However, on the shell of this giant crab, there was a familiar circular symbol that looked like Deja Vu devouring beast. What's wrong? Song Sui Jing was surprised. Devouring beast, it's the symbol of the devouring beast, my god. Yi Xian's heart trembled. He hurriedly pointed to the giant crab and asked, Your Highness, what sacred beast is this? Yuman turned around and looked at Yi Xian's hand. She shook her head and said, I'm not very clear, big brother. I remember that you caught it, right? Yes, I caught it, but I don't know what sacred beast it is. It only has the strength of 2 dragons. Yu nodded. Then, can you give this sacred beast to me? Yi Xian asked again. This is a devouring beast. If he can devour this corpse, he can at least obtain 1 advancement point. At that time, he can strengthen his Beast King bloodline. Yu turned his head to look at Yuman. The latter immediately nodded. Yes, this sacred beast's behavior is very strange, as if it can't understand human language. Its intelligence is too low. I don't like it very much. Then, thank you, Your Highness. Yi Xian's eyes flashed. He suddenly took out the Bahuang sword and directly attacked. Bahuang wind-killing formation. 8 sharp blades rotated at high speed, piercing towards the giant crab. Kacha! The giant crab's shell was pierced, and it died instantly. Then, Yi Xian quickly kept the corpse and devoured it. Ding! The host has devoured a devouring beast's corpse, obtained 1 advancement point. Indeed, this giant crab is a devouring beast. Haha, I can advance again. Yi Xian laughed in his heart. This means that he can increase his strength again. The Beast King bloodline has a total of 8 advancement paths. They are Strength, Agility, Beast King Growth Speed, Beast King Attribute, Beast King Expansion, Beast King Deterrence, Devouring Benefits, and Beast King Rage. In the world of martial arts, only speed is unbeatable. Yi Xian likes strength and speed the most. Now, he has the strength of 3 dragons. If he increases his strength, it will be equivalent to increasing his strength by 0. 3 dragons. If he advances to agility, it will increase his strength by 20%. The Beast King Rage skill is also very overpowered. If it advances again, it will increase his strength by 40%. However, the amount of sacred beast corpses required for Beast King Rage will increase every time it is used, and every time it advances, the amount of sacred beast corpses required will also increase. Therefore, unless it is absolutely necessary, it is best not to use Beast King Rage. I've decided, advance to agility. Ding, advancement successful. The current Beast King bloodline agility has advanced to 2. After hearing the system notification, Yi Xian could not help but smile. Although his strength needs to increase, but when he has the strength of 3 dragons, the increase in strength is not much. Chapter 341. Vicious Shark Attack. Although advanced strength is good, don't forget that humans can also use agility martial arts. The increase in speed from advanced strength is much better than using agility martial arts without advanced agility. Therefore, under the current situation, it is better to advance agility. The scene of Yi Xian killing the devouring beast was seen by several people, and they showed a strange expression. At this time, Yu Yi couldn't help but ask, "Brother Yi, do you know what kind of saint beast that is?" "It is called a devouring beast. Its corpse is useful to me. This devouring beast has a strange circular pattern on its body. I don't know if your highness has seen it before?" Yi Xian asked. "No, I caught it in the deep sea underground palace. As for the circular pattern, I didn't pay attention to it." Yu Yi shook his head. Yi Xian felt that it was a pity, but his luck is not bad. He actually encountered another devouring beast. He was fantasizing that if there were 8 or 10 devouring beasts, his strength would skyrocket. Who knows, he might be able to beat up 7 or 8 dragon experts. Devouring beast? What a strange name. Yu Yi was stunned. No, devouring beast is just a general name. The devouring beast I encountered before was just an earth core realm snake. Yi Xian added. Yu Yi nodded. I see. Then I will tell the others to pay more attention. Thank you, Your Highness. Yi Xian quickly expressed his gratitude. Then, Yu Man continued to bring Judge Song and the other 2 to visit her collection. However, at this time, a 6-armed sea demon suddenly rushed over. Your Highness, not good. Something big has happened. This 6-armed sea demon was Commander Wu, who was beaten up by Yi Xian. At this time, he hurriedly rushed over and shouted. What happened? Yu Yi frowned and asked. This is the first time he saw Commander Wu so anxious. It seems that something has happened. Commander Wu turned around and quickly said, Your Highness, I just received news that the Vicious Shark Clan has brought experts to kill us. What? The Vicious Shark Clan? Yu Yi cried out in alarm. Damn it, Royal Father went to Senior Heavenly Whale's place. What should we do? Commander Wu said, Your Highness, the Vicious Shark Clan only sent 2 generals this time. 2 4-dragon strength generals? Since that's the case, why don't you quickly go and inform General Lei? Yu Yi hurriedly said. This? Commander Wu paused and replied. I can't find General Lei. Damn it, why can't we find him at this critical juncture? Yu Yi cursed. Brother, what do we do now? Yu Man asked worriedly. Yu Yi replied with a calm face. I can only control the dragon-protecting Great Array. It shouldn't be a problem to block the 2 vicious shark generals. The Great Dragon Protection Array was the Dragon Palace's life-saving straw. If it was controlled by Yu Yi, who had the strength of 4 dragons, then it would be enough to defend against an expert with the strength of 5 dragons. If it was a dragon king with the strength of 5 dragons, then he would be able to resist an expert with 6 or even 7 dragons. It was also because of this guardian dragon array that they had not been slaughtered by the vicious shark clan. After that, Yi led a group of people and rushed to the Dragon Palace's city gate. Yi Xian had arrived at the other side of the city gate, and this side of the city gate faced the vicious shark clan, which was the middle section of the deep-sea underground palace. At this time, the vicious shark clan had not arrived yet. Brother Yi, I'm really sorry. I haven't even set up a banquet to welcome you, but this actually happened. Yi stood on the city wall and said helplessly. Those 2 vicious shark generals only have the strength of 4 dragons. Why didn't they go out together to kill them? Yi Xian asked in surprise. That won't do. Yi shook his head. He took out a white ball and said, I have to stay here to maintain the guardian dragon formation. If I go out, no one will be able to maintain the guardian dragon formation. At that time, the vicious shark clan will definitely attack. Is this the dragon protecting great array? Yi Xian stood in front of the city wall and pointed at the strange energy barrier in front of them. When he bombarded the city gate before, he saw this array, so he gave up on jumping over the city wall. Yes, this pseudo-dragon pearl can control the dragon protecting great array. As long as the vicious shark king or that one-eyed giant python doesn't come, the vicious shark clan won't be able to attack. Yi nodded. Yi Xian asked in surprise. If that's the case, then why is the vicious shark clan still attacking? Isn't this a waste of effort? Perhaps, they came to inquire about the location of the real dragon pearl. Yi said slowly. The real dragon pearl? Yi Xian murmured. Yes, the real dragon pearl is the foundation of this dragon-protecting great array. This dragon pearl was condensed from the death of my sea dragon clan's ancestor. The vicious shark clan has been eyeing it for a long time. If the vicious shark king obtains the dragon pearl, he might be able to break through and increase his strength by 2 or 3 dragons. Yi said. 2 or 3 dragons. Hearing this, Yi Xian and the others were stunned. Wasn't this a bit too amazing? Since that's the case, why doesn't your imperial father refine it himself? That way, he would have the strength to fight against the vicious shark clan. Yi Xian asked doubtfully. But this dragon pearl only exists in legends. Even I don't know if this dragon pearl really exists. Yi shook his head helplessly and said, This is just a story my imperial father told me when I was young. If it doesn't, then this dragon protecting great array? Yi Xian asked with a frown. Yes, this dragon protecting great array is proof. A few years ago, when we moved to the deep-sea underground palace, we moved the dragon protecting great array here. So I guess this dragon pearl should be in my imperial father's hands. However, my imperial father denies the existence of this dragon pearl. Yi also didn't understand. At this time, a series of loud noises came from another passage connected to the dragon palace. After a while, terrifying monsters rushed out from the passage. Vicious Shark Clan. Yi Xian glanced at them and found that the Vicious Shark Clan was a shark. Although they didn't have feet and relied on their tails to move, they had 2 thick arms and a row of sharp fins on their back. As for their weapon, it was a trident. One by one, the vicious sharks drilled out of the passage. There were more than 100 of them. Then, 2 3-meter-tall vicious sharks walked in front of the formation. Your Highness, long time no see? A white vicious shark wearing armor opened its mouth and laughed. It's actually the black-white double demons. Yi's face sank. The other vicious black shark suddenly took out a large claw and threw it into its mouth. While chewing, it said, Your sea dragon clan's shrimp soldiers and crab generals are the best. They taste really good. Chapter 342. 1 against 100. Yi's face was gloomy as he said, What are you doing in my dragon palace? Haha, Your Highness. Don't be nervous. We are just bored in the clan, so we came to chat with Your Highness. White Shark said with a smile. Since it's just a chat, why did you bring so many troops? Yi narrowed his eyes. Oh, this is our habit. No matter where we go, we have to bring 100 subordinates. Could it be that Your Highness is afraid of 100 small shark soldiers with only 2 dragon strength? White Shark replied casually. 100 shark soldiers with 2 dragon strength were indeed not worth mentioning for the evil shark clan. But for the sea dragon clan, if the entire dragon palace's Naga sirens were to gather, it would only amount to this number. Yi paused for a moment and said straightforwardly, What are you doing here? All right, since your highness has asked, then we'll be frank with you. The two of us were ordered to come here to discuss some matters with the Dragon King. I wonder if the Dragon King is in the Dragon Palace at this time? White Shark asked. My father is in seclusion. If you have anything to say, just tell me. Yue would not tell him that the Dragon King was not in the Dragon Palace at this time. Seclusion? White Shark narrowed his eyes and said with a smile. Well, in that case I will say it. I, the evil Shark King, said that as long as you hand over the Dragon Pearl and are willing to become a vassal of my evil Shark clan, we can spare your lives. How about it? Hand over the Dragon Pearl and become a vassal of the evil Shark clan? After Yue heard this, he replied directly, Dragon Pearl is just a legend of my Sea Dragon clan. I don't know. That's why I asked the Dragon King to come out. White Shark said. Sorry, my father is in seclusion. Please go back. Yue refused directly. White Shark and Black Shark looked at each other, and then the former said, Well, I have passed on the message. Our mission has been completed. Then, it's time for the two of us to be free. Since we are already here, we don't want to go back empty-handed. Little princess, do you want to visit my evil shark clan? Wishful thinking. Yu Man directly snorted. Although her strength was weak, she was not stupid. It's fine if you don't want to go. Great White shrugged and retreated. Next, the Black Shark took out a large pincer and bit it off, then said, I heard that the ancestor of your Sea Dragon clan was once a member of the Northern Sea clan. Their battle prowess isn't bad. Are you interested in a match? Not interested, Yue answered instinctively. Don't say that. I have some deep-sea blue-green algae here. As long as you send one person to kill my 100 shark soldiers, all of these deep-sea blue-green algae will be yours. What do you think? Heisha opened his mouth and laughed. He waved his hand and took out something from an interspatial ring. Hey! Commander Wu, who was standing next to Yue, opened his eyes wide. Heisha took out more than 10 boxes of deep-sea blue-green algae, which was more than the amount of deep-sea blue-green algae they had been searching for half a year. Yue was also stunned. What do you think? These are all shark soldiers with the strength of 2 dragons. As long as your people can kill them all, these deep-sea cyanobacteria will be yours, Black Shark repeated. Your Highness, there must be something fishy. Why would they be so kind as to take out the deep-sea blue algae? Commander Wu hurriedly reminded. I know. Yue nodded. The evil shark clan had always been vicious and merciless. How could they be so kind as to send deep-sea blue algae? 102 dragon strength shark soldiers. Even a 3 dragon strength commander would not be able to kill them all. Therefore, they would need at least a 4 dragon strength expert. As for the Sea Dragon clan's expert with 4 dragon strength, other than Yue, there was only General Lei. However, General Lei was nowhere to be found. Therefore, only Yue was present. Brother. He must be trying to lure you out. Yu Man reminded. That's right. Yue nodded. Moreover, he seems to know that Imperial Father is not here. At this time, Yixian suddenly stepped forward and said, Your Highness, why don't you let me out? Yue turned his head in shock. He suddenly remembered that there were 4 dragon strength experts in the Dragon Palace. It wasn't just him and General Lei, but also Yixian. But this is a trap. The black-white double demons may attack you. Yue frowned. Now he also knew that Yixian only had 3 dragon strength and not 4 dragon strength. It's okay, I can handle it. Yixian nodded solemnly. On the side, Song Suijing and Judge Song stood silently. They believed in Yixian's strength. Since Yixian dared to stand out, it meant that he was confident. Good. Then I will open the gate. If the situation is not good, you can come in immediately. Yue said. This wall was only the first line of defense of the Dragon Palace. The dragon protecting array only covered the wall and not the gate. However, he had the pseudo-dragon pearl and could control the dragon protecting array. Then, Yue shouted to the shark army in front of him. Good, my Sea Dragon clan is willing to send one person to challenge your 100 shark soldiers. Good, your highness is really straightforward. You can rest assured that we won't attack this time. Black Shark grinned. Humph. Yue just snorted and ordered people to open the gate. Yixian walked out of the gate. This time, he took a fancy to the 100 shark soldiers with 2 dragon strength. This was equivalent to 200 saint beasts. If he swallowed all of them, he could at least increase his strength to 4 dragon strength. With the addition of the interspatial rings, he might be able to directly increase his strength to 5 dragon strength. At that time, if he uses Beast King Rampage, he could reach 6 dragon strength or even 7 dragon strength. This was an excellent opportunity. Oh, why haven't we seen this person before? After seeing Yi Xian, black-white double demons looked at each other. There were only a few sea dragon clan that could transform, and they had seen all of them before. However, Yi Xian was very unfamiliar. Could it be that he had just successfully transformed? But what they didn't know was that Yi Xian only had the bloodline of the blade fish. So, the sea tribe felt that he was a little similar to them. Kid, are you also a member of the sea dragon clan? Black Shock frowned and asked. No, I'm a human. Yi Xian walked out and shook his head. Human. Black-white double demons looked at each other. This was the first time they saw a human in the deep sea palace. However, it didn't matter. Human, right? That's fine. As long as you can kill all 100 shark soldiers, then these deep sea blue algae will be yours. Black Shark said. Hee hee, then let's do it. Yi Xian grinned and took out the Bahuang sword. He was ready to break through. The 100 shark soldiers glanced at Yi Xian. After obtaining the consent of the black-white double fiends, they fiercely charged towards Yi Xian. Chapter 343. An easy victory. Brat, die. A blind shark soldier was the first to charge over. With a trident in his hand, he stabbed towards Yi Xian. 8 Barren Wind Formation. The 8 blades began to revolve at high speed. With his current realm, he could already control the 8 blades to attack enemies 1,000 meters away. With a flash of cold light, the shark soldier's head fell to the ground and was absorbed into Yi Xian's devour space. A 2 dragon strength sacred beast's corpse was equivalent to several 1 dragon strength sacred beast's corpse. It was the same for the sacred beast's soul. And there were actually 102 dragon strength shark soldiers here. This caused Yi Xian's eyes to be filled with killing intent. Kill! 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 Yi Xian's eyes were red with killing intent. In just a second, the 8 Barren Wind Formation had reaped the lives of 5 shark soldiers. At this rate, this group of shark soldiers would be completely annihilated in less than half a minute. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. 4 seconds. Time passed little by little, but the number of shark soldiers was rapidly decreasing. Both sides were stunned. This kind of killing speed was something that no one present could achieve. Big brother, what should we do? Black Shark looked at White Shark. It doesn't matter. Even if we all die, it won't hurt. After all, we are only here to verify the news. White Shark grinned. It seems like the Dragon King is really not in the Dragon Palace. Otherwise, he would definitely come out and kill the 2 of us. Black Shark nodded. White Shark continued to smile. Although I don't know who it is, it must be the Sea Dragon Clan. It seems like someone wants to cooperate with us to wipe out the Sea Dragon Clan in one fell swoop. The Sea Dragon Clan is not important. Our goal is only the Dragon Pearl. Big brother, how much do you think we can improve if we get the Dragon Pearl? Black Shark asked curiously. Shut up, don't think too much. The Dragon Pearl belongs to my king. Even if we get the Dragon Pearl, do you think we can escape from this deep-sea underground palace? White Shark shouted. Black Shark obediently shut his mouth. Their evil shark clan doesn't have the ability to live on the shore. Moreover, if they want to get their hands on the Dragon Pearl, they will definitely be swallowed by the evil Shark King. While they were talking, most of the shark soldiers were dead. A few seconds later, all 100 shark soldiers were killed by Yi Xian and collected their corpses. Ding! Host has broken through to 4 dragon strength. After Yi Xian devoured over 30 shark soldier corpses and sacred beast souls, he heard the sound of a system notification. If he were to use Beast King Rampage now, he would be able to reach the power of 5 dragons. The vicious Shark clan is really not bad. To think that they would send me some benefits. If only there were more. Yi Xian shook his head helplessly and continued to devour. 4.1 dragon, 4.2 dragon, 4.3 dragon, 4.4 dragon. As the number of corpses in the devouring space decreased, Yi Xian's strength also increased. Unfortunately, these shark soldiers were very poor, much poorer than the shrimp soldiers and crab generals. Therefore, they couldn't help him break through to the power of 5 dragons. If he were to use Beast King Rampage now, he might be able to reach the power of 6 dragons. Ha ha, kid, your strength is not bad. Could it be that you are the human from the continent at the entrance of the deep sea underground palace? Black Shark laughed. Is it important where I am from? Yi Xian grinned and said, where are the things? Black Shark didn't waste time and directly collected the deep sea blue algae. Then, he threw the interspatial ring to Yi Xian, who was 1,000 meters away. Refreshing. Yi Xian smiled and then kept the interspatial ring with the deep sea blue algae. He said, you too, don't you want to play? Oh, you want to challenge us? Black Shark was a little surprised, but he shook his head and said, but we will forget about it today. We will come again when the Dragon King returns. Goodbye. In his eyes, Yi Xian only had the power of 3 dragons. He could crush him with one hand. However, what he didn't know was that Yi Xian had already broken through and also had the power of 4 dragons. Haha, do you think you can escape? Yi Xian suddenly opened his eyes wide and rushed out. If he killed the black-white double demons, he might be able to break through to the power of 5 dragons. Therefore, the black-white double demons had to stay. Good boy, you dare to have ideas about us? Let me, Black Shark, fight you. Black Shark took out his trident and rushed forward. For some reason, White Shark had a bad feeling when he saw Yi Xian rushing over. He subconsciously took out his trident. Big brother, don't do anything. I will kill him. Black Shark reminded. White Shark was stunned, but he still stopped. With a distance of 1,000 meters between them, they would meet each other in less than a second. Yi Xian circulated a large amount of true qi to form the 8 Desolation Greatsword. 3 mini dragons soared into the sky and slashed at Black Shark. A martial artist in the physical strength realm would have as many flying dragons around him as he used his strength. If the martial artist exceeded the power of 10 dragons, the flying dragons would be 1 size bigger. Therefore, it was obvious at a glance. When Black Shark saw the 3 flying dragons, he didn't think much and directly stabbed his trident. Clang! Black Shark used the power of 4 dragons to poke 3 small holes in the 8 Desolation Heaven-Shaking Greatsword. Shortly after, the 8 Desolation Heaven-Shaking Greatsword quietly shattered. Boom! A sound wave swept out. However, Black Shark was an expert with the power of 4 dragons. The 8 Desolation Heaven-Shaking Greatsword didn't have much effect on him. Child's play. See if I don't stab you to death and then cut you into pieces. I haven't eaten human flesh yet. Heisha rushed to Yi Xian's side amidst a loud shout. Die! Black Shark widened his eyes. He was more than twice as tall as Yi Xian. The trident in his hand was also bigger than Yi Xian's. However, just as the trident was about to pierce Yi Xian's head, another flying dragon suddenly appeared around Yi Xian. The 4th flying dragon. The power of 4 dragons. What? Black Shark and White Shark were shocked. Yi Xian actually had the power of 4 dragons? How was this possible? So what if you have the power of 4 dragons? In front of me, Black Shark, you will still die. Black Shark stabbed the trident with all his strength. This attack could definitely kill Yi Xian instantly. Hee hee. However, Yi Xian only smiled indifferently and nimbly dodged the attack. At the same time, the 8 Desolation Greatsword in his hand shattered. 8 Desolation Wind Formation. 2nd level. Puh, 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 puh. A total of 8 muffled sounds rang out. 8 sharp blades all pierced Black Shark's body. Although he had a tough armor, his head and other places were still exposed. At such a close distance, Black Shark was directly hit by Yi Xian. 2 of the sharp blades had already pierced his head and penetrated it. Dang! Chapter 344. Translator, Nyoibo Studio Editor. Nyoibo Studio. The transaction. Without waiting for Heisha's corpse to fall to the ground, Yi Xian reached out and caught the corpse. Only when Heisha was completely dead did he put him into the devouring space. Devour! Yi Xian devoured the corpse with the strength of 4 dragons. At the same time, he emptied the contents of Heisha's interspatial ring into the devouring space. As expected of the general of the vicious shark clan, his wealth is enormous. There are hundreds of corpses. Yi Xian was grinning from ear to ear. The interspatial ring contained treasures from the deep sea, as well as a large amount of ores. These were all very useful to him. Not only that, but the ores were also materials for crafting heaven artifacts. This was an unexpected gain. However, these items were not enough for him to break through to the strength of 5 dragons. Therefore, he focused his attention on Xianxia. Damn it, you killed Xianxia. I want your life. Xianxia took out his trident and rushed towards Yixian. But halfway through, he was stopped by 8 sharp blades. The vicious shark clan had always relied on strength to win. It would have been fine if they were in the water, but the deep sea palace was not really seawater. Therefore, his speed was too slow in Yixian's eyes. This Xianxia only lasted for 5 seconds before his head was pierced by the 8 sharp blades. Too weak. Is this the strength of the vicious shark clan? Yixian shook his head helplessly and walked over to put away Xia's corpse. Ding. The host has broken through to the strength of 5 dragons. The system notifications sounded again. Yixian estimated that the Vigor realm was probably the realm that he had broken through the most times. At this time, the team from the vicious shark clan had all died at the hands of Yixian. There was a total of 102 vicious sharks, and not a single one was left alive. Yue involuntarily swallowed a mouthful of saliva when he saw the mess in front of the city wall. His strength was above the 2 vicious shark generals. However, it would still take him some effort to finish them off. However, Yixian killed the 2 vicious shark generals with ease. If Yixian had attacked just now, he would have died at the hands of Yixian. Thinking of this, he quickly walked down the city walls to welcome Yixian. Brother Yi, thank you so much. Yue imitated a human's gesture and thanked him. Haha, I still have to thank the princess for the devouring beast. Yixian took out the interspatial ring that contained the deep-sea blue algae and passed it to him. Thank you so much. With these deep-sea blue algae, senior heavenly whale's poison should be suppressed for quite some time. Yue took the interspatial ring and thanked him again. I'm not too sure about that. Senior Tianjing is currently recuperating somewhere else. I reckon that father should be back soon, Yue said. Yixian muttered in his heart. He had the 1,000-flower bloodline in his body. Unfortunately, the 1,000-flower bloodline could not detoxify this poison. Unfortunately, he had to make his own high-grade weapons, martial arts and elixirs. Therefore, the devouring crystal in the devouring system was not very useful. Perhaps he would need the devouring crystal in other places in the future. At this moment, suddenly, a figure flew out from the Dragon Palace. It's father. Yu's eyes lit up when he saw the figure. The figure was a middle-aged man. He quickly flew towards the city gates. Why are you here? What happened? Dragon King Yuzhan could not help but ask when he saw the mess outside the city walls. Father, it's like this. Yue hurriedly told him about the vicious shark attack. One person killed 2 of the vicious shark clan's generals? Yuzhan was shocked. He hurriedly said, Thank you for your help, little brother. Senior, you are too polite. Yixian said with a smile. Father, why do you look so pale? Is it because of Senior Tianjing? Yue hurriedly asked again. Yuzhan nodded. Yes, Senior Tianjing's poison is getting worse. I'm afraid it won't last long. Yue, send people out to look for the deep-sea blue-green algae. If it doesn't work, organize a team to enter the middle section of the underground palace. After his reminder, Yue suddenly remembered that he had just obtained a large amount of deep-sea blue-green algae. Father, look. Yue handed over the interspatial ring. Yuzhan checked it and his face changed greatly. Why do you have so many deep-sea blue-green algae? They were brought by the black-white double ghosts. Yue explained. He had just made a long story short and forgot about the deep-sea blue-green algae. Well, with these, we should be able to temporarily suppress the poison of Senior Tianjing. However, I'm afraid it won't last long. Yuzhan frowned. At this time, Yixian interrupted. Senior, is there no way to detoxify it? There is. The poison was left by the one-eyed giant python. If we can get the gallbladder of the one-eyed giant python, maybe. Yuzhan did not continue. He thought it was impossible. However, Yixian's eyes flashed when he heard this. He remembered that Yue said that the one-eyed giant python of the vicious shark clan had the strength of 7 dragons. He, on the other hand, had the strength of 5 dragons. If he used Beast King Rampage, he would have the strength of 7 dragons. Therefore, he might have the ability to kill the one-eyed giant python. Senior, why don't we make a deal? Yi Xian said with a faint smile. A deal. Yu Zhan and the others were stunned. I might be able to kill the one-eyed giant python and get the gallbladder for you. Yi Xian said slowly. Yu Zhan exclaimed. You? How is that possible? Although Yi Xian had killed the black-white double fiends, 2 4-dragon strength vicious shark generals, this one-eyed giant python was a 7-dragon strength saint beast. Its physique was strong, and it had the strength to kill 6 dragons in an instant. Besides, there were many experts in the vicious shark clan. If Yi Xian went in, he would be killed by the vicious shark clan's experts. If he couldn't even see the one-eyed giant python, how could he get its gallbladder? Yi Xian, you're not joking, right? Yu Yi asked in astonishment. Of course not, but before that, you have to promise me a condition. Yi Xian said with a smile. Condition? Yu Zhan narrowed his eyes. Could it be that you want the dragon pearl too? The dragon pearl was a legendary treasure of the Sea Dragon clan. It was formed after the death of the Sea Dragon clan's ancestor. The reason why the vicious shark clan was so interested in the Sea Dragon clan was because of the dragon pearl. At the mention of the dragon pearl, the atmosphere became strange. However, Yi Xian shook his head calmly. No, I don't want the dragon pearl. I only want a large amount of saint beast corpses and saint beast souls. A large amount, and the higher the grade, the better. What, you only want these? Chapter 345. Vicious Shark City, that's right. I only want these. The more corpses the better. Yi Xian nodded. Yu Zhan paused for a moment. He saw that Yi Xian didn't seem to be lying. He heaved a sigh of relief. It's fine as long as it's not a Dragon Ball. My Sea Dragon clan relies on these saint beast corpses to survive. Although I don't know what use you have, these corpses are just food for us. As for the saint beast souls, we refine them very slowly, but we still have a lot of them. As Yu Zhan spoke, he shifted his gaze to Yu Yi. Father, I'll get it right away. Yu Yi immediately nodded and left. After he left, Yu Zhan turned to Yi Xian and said, Little brother, if you can kill the one-eyed giant python and bring back its gallbladder, then you will be the benefactor of my Sea Dragon clan. Senior is exaggerating. However, this junior success rate has a lot to do with the saint beast corpses. Yi Xian reminded. Don't worry, the quantity won't be small. Yu Zhan said solemnly. His intuition told him that if he believes in Yi Xian, he would be able to get what he wants. Soon, Yu Yi returned and handed over an interspatial ring to Yi Xian. Yi Xian took the interspatial ring and checked it. Sure enough, the quantity is huge. Thousands of dragon strength corpses, and some saint beast souls. Yi Xian smiled. Brother Yi, is this enough? Yu Yi asked. It's enough. Yi Xian replied. These things are enough for him to increase his strength by 1 dragon strength. Now, he's 99% sure that he can kill the one-eyed giant python. Senior, I will definitely complete the task. Yi Xian said solemnly. Good, then I'll leave you to it. As Yu Zhan spoke, he took out a scroll made from the skin of a certain deep-sea creature and handed it to Yi Xian. This is the map of the middle section of the deep-sea underground palace. The location of the vicious shark clan has been marked out. Yi Xian nodded, then looked at Song Sui Jing and said, Sui Jing, you stay here with Big Brother. I'll be back soon. Be careful. Song Sui Jing said with a strange expression. She originally thought that she had caught up to Yi Xian, but unexpectedly, the distance between them widened again. She and Judge Song had yet to break through to the strength realm, but Yi Xian already had the confidence to kill a cyclops python with the strength of 7 dragons. I will. After replying, Yi Xian entered the tunnel that the twin ghosts of black and white had come from. Yu Yi, you stay here. I'll give these deep-sea blue algae to Senior Sky Whale. After finishing his words, Yu Zhan entered the Dragon Palace. The heavenly whale flood dragon did not live in the Dragon Palace, but on the other side, so he had to leave from the other side of the wall. Ding, the host has broken through to the strength of 6 dragons. After hearing the notification, Yi Xian's eyes were filled with confidence. Now, he was at the same level as the vicious Shark King, only 1 dragon's strength away from the Cyclops Python. Vicious Shark Clan, become my stepping stone. Yi Xian roared in his heart and directly entered the middle section of the deep-sea palace. Here, the vicious Shark Clan's shark soldiers, shark generals, as well as saint beasts with the strength of 2 dragons and 3 dragons will appear. Yi Xian was already prepared to kill in all directions. As soon as he stepped into the middle section of the deep sea palace, he encountered a saint beast with the strength of 2 dragons. This saint beast was instantly killed by him and then swallowed. The vicious shark clan has blocked the only way to the back section. If I want to go to the Blood Cliff continent, I must eliminate the vicious shark clan. Yi Xian thought in his heart, and then moved towards the vicious shark clan at full speed. With the map in hand, he estimated that he would be able to find the vicious shark clan's palace in less than half an hour. On the way to the vicious shark clan, he also encountered some shark soldiers. The vicious shark clan was stronger than the sea dragon clan, and all of them were shark clans. As for the sea dragon clan, there were prawns, crabs, naga sirens and 6-armed sirens, and Yue and the others were flood dragons. The difference between the two was obvious at a glance. Yi Xian rushed for more than 20 minutes according to the map, and after killing dozens of wandering shark soldiers, he finally saw a big black wall. It seemed that this was the territory of the vicious shark clan. He looked at the big black wall and murmured, "There is no array like the dragon protection array, then it's easiest to directly attack." However, at this time, in the depths of the vicious shark clan's black palace, there was a 5-meter-tall shark talking to a 100-meter-long cyclops python. "Senior Cyclops, there is a traitor in the sea dragon clan. After a while, we will be able to get the dragon pearl," the vicious shark king said respectfully. Hiss! The cyclops python was lying on the floor and spitting out its tongue that was even bigger than the vicious shark king's. "Yes, as long as we get the dragon pearl, I will immediately send it to you." The vicious shark king seemed to understand the cyclops python's words. Hiss! The vicious shark king paused and said in surprise, "What, Senior Cyclops, you are saying that you are about to succeed in your transformation? Haha, if that's the case, you will definitely be able to break through to the strength of 10 dragons if you refine the dragon pearl." He was also suspicious. The cyclops python had been lying here for a long time. Even if the holy beast's corpse was sent, it would need to be put into the cyclops python's mouth. At this time, a vicious shark rushed over and reported, "My king, not good, someone has attacked Vicious Shark City." "Who is it? Could it be the Sea Dragon Clan's Dragon King?" the vicious Shark King asked in surprise. "No, it's not him, it's a stranger, he seems to be a human." The vicious Shark King shook his head. "A human? Then what are you in a daze for? Go and catch him, I haven't eaten a human yet." The vicious Shark King opened his sharp mouth and revealed a strange expression. But we can't stop him, all the experts were killed by him in one blow, even General Sha Jiao who has the strength of 5 dragons." The vicious Shark King didn't continue because the General Sha Jiao he was talking about was the vicious Shark King's #1 general. What? The vicious Shark King opened his eyes wide in disbelief. His #1 general, Sha Jiao, actually died? Immediately, he dashed out of the area. The human who killed his way into Vicious Shark City was naturally Yi Xian. At this time, he was killing the vicious sharks without any scruples. None of the people who were targeted by him could survive, even if they had the strength of 5 dragons. "Tiske, that General Sha Jiao is quite rich, if I can kill the vicious Shark King, I will definitely be able to break through and reach the strength of 7 dragons." Yi Xian thought in his heart and began to look for the vicious sharks. There were many shark soldiers in Vicious Shark City, but apart from their corpses and holy beast souls, there weren't many things in their space rings. Chapter 346. One-eyed giant python. Of course, if those shark soldiers didn't have eyes, Yi Xian wouldn't mind killing them. After all, many a little makes a mickle. It had to be said that there were many experts in this shark city. Since he entered, he had already killed more than 100 experts with the strength of 3 dragons, more than a dozen with the strength of 4 dragons, and even one with the strength of 5 dragons. "Shark King, come out for me!" Yi Xian suddenly shouted. He had just shouted casually, but he didn't expect that someone would really respond, "Bastard, hand over your life." When the voice arrived, the person also arrived. Yi Xian's expression froze as he discovered a huge shadow blocking his path. "Shark King? What fast speed!" Yi Xian was shocked. He had 6 dragon strength and a 20% movement speed bonus, but he felt that he couldn't compare to this Shark King. There was something fishy about this. "Boy, who are you?" After the Shark King rushed over, it didn't attack, but looked at Yi Xian with a condescending expression. "You are the Shark King?" Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. The evil Shark King held a huge trident in his hand as he stood in front of Xianxia like a sculpture. His eyes, which were even larger than a human head, stared at Xianxia as he replied in a deep voice, "That's right. I want to go to the Blood Rock continent. Why are you blocking my way?" Xianxia asked in return. Blood Rock continent? The Shark King was shocked for a moment before it knocked the trident in its hand on the ground and coldly shouted, "Is this the reason you invaded my shark city?" "Not all of them. I heard that there's also a holy beast Cyclops python with the strength of 7 dragons here. I'm here to take its holy beast soul." Xianxia looked at the evil Shark King that was 10 meters away. "Senior One-Eyed is the guardian beast of the vicious Shark King. With just you, I'm afraid you won't even be able to break through its scales, yet you dare to threaten to kill Senior One-Eyed?" The vicious Shark King's eyes flashed. "Whether I can kill it or not is my business. You just need to tell me where it is." Xianxia sneered. If the vicious Shark King had told him where the Cyclops python was, it would have saved him a lot of time. Hearing this, the vicious Shark King held the trident with both hands and attacked directly. "After I kill you, I will send your corpse to Senior One-Eyed." A great battle was about to break out. Both the man and the shark had the strength of 6 dragons. The battle between the two was definitely not something the surrounding shark soldiers and shark generals could interfere with. Bang! 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 2 figures were moving quickly in Shark City. As soon as they started fighting, Xianxia felt a sense of pressure. That was because this vicious Shark King was even faster than him. "Human, your methods are brilliant, but I'm practicing the Sea Tribe's Heaven-class movement technique. Can you keep up with me?" The Shark King's laughter fell into Xianxia's ears. Heaven-class movement technique? After hearing this, Xianxia's body trembled. Now, it was impossible to exchange for heaven-class martial arts in the devouring system. He didn't expect to find one here. Although the vicious Shark King emphasized the Sea Tribe's heaven-class martial arts, Xianxia had the devouring system. Maybe he could learn it too? The two sides fought for 10 rounds. Although Xianxia's speed couldn't catch up to the vicious Shark King, the vicious Shark King couldn't do anything to Xianxia, who used the 8 desolate wind-killing formation. The two sides were in a deadlock. Who is this human? Isn't the Sky-Water continent connected to the entrance of the deep-sea underground palace? How can there be such a powerful human? General Shark Dove couldn't even block one move and his head was directly pierced. This human is so strong. Even the king can't do anything to him. Do we need to ask Senior One-Eyed? Isn't Senior One-Eyed in seclusion? The surrounding shark soldiers and shark generals were discussing in low voices. At this time, the scene suddenly changed. When the shark soldiers and shark generals saw the head on the floor, they were stunned. Isn't this the head of the vicious Shark King? At this time, Xianxia walked to the corpse with the 8 desolate greatsword in his hand and put it away. "Do you really think that I can't do anything to you just because you have a heaven-class movement technique?" Xianxia said in his heart. Although he only had the strength of 6 dragons, after using Beast King's rampage, it instantly soared to 8 dragons. 8 dragons' strength, instantly killing 6 dragons' strength. This was inevitable. Let me see how much wealth this vicious Shark King has. Xianxia sank his consciousness into the interspatial ring. The next moment, he was shocked to find that the things in the interspatial ring were at least 10 times more than what General Shark Dove had. Ding! The host has broken through to 7 dragons. Ding! The host has broken through to 8 dragons. 2 system notifications sounded in his mind. Xianxia grinned. Now, even without using Beast King's rampage, he had already reached 8 dragons. At this time, he still had the effect of Beast King's rampage. In other words, his current strength had reached 10 dragons. Sea Race's Roaming Dragon Dash, a heaven-class movement technique. Let me try it out. Ding! The host does not have a top-notch deep-sea bloodline. Unable to learn. Xianxia was helpless. Sure enough, there was a limit. The Beast King bloodline in his body was a physique bloodline. Therefore, he was temporarily unable to fuse with top-notch physique bloodlines, such as the deep-sea flood dragon bloodline. Moreover, the heaven-class bloodline had a limit. It could only be used in water. Although Song Sui Jing and Song Cai Jue could breathe in the deep-sea palace, it was still considered the bottom of the sea. Forget it, I'll give it to the Sea Dragon clan later. Xianxia put away the roaming dragon dash and turned his head to look. He found that the shark soldiers and shark generals were frantically fleeing. Shill! He quickly rushed out and caught a shark general with 4 dragons' strength. He coldly asked, "Where's the one-eyed python?" When the shark general saw the huge wyvern that flew out from Yixian's body, his heart turned cold. A huge wyvern represented 10 dragons' strength. How could a human with 10 dragons' strength appear in the deep-sea palace? He was scared half to death. He pointed in a direction and said, "Senior One-Eyed is in that direction." He thought that if he revealed the whereabouts of the one-eyed python, Yixian would spare his life. However, he was disappointed. Swish! A cold light flashed and his head fell to the ground. Yixian put away the corpse and quickly rushed in that direction. Now that he had used Beast King's rampage, he needed a large amount of Saint Beast corpses every time he used it. Therefore, he had to use it sparingly. While the effect was still active, he killed the one-eyed python. Although the one-eyed python only had 7 dragons' strength, it was still not enough. Yixian advanced in the direction that the shark general pointed. After a while, he found a huge one-eyed python. Chapter 347. One-eyed serpent. Who cares what happened to you? Die! Yixian immediately unleashed the 8 barren wind-killing formation and stabbed forward. Puh! But unexpectedly, the 8 sharp blades easily pierced into the Cyclops giant python's mouth. Its defense was not as strong as Yixian had imagined. Yixian sensed that something was amiss and withdrew his 8 blades. There was something else in the Cyclops python's body. Suddenly, the Beast King bloodline in his body began to boil. He felt that there was something terrifying in the body of this Cyclops python. Of course, this terrifying thing was not enough to make him feel fear. No matter what you are, die. Yixian sensed that the duration of Beast King's rampage was about to end, so he immediately took out his 8 Desolation Greatsword. Beast King rampage could increase one's strength by 30%, but it would not increase the strength of one's Xianxia. As for the offensive strength of the 8 Desolate Wind formation, it was affected by the true Qi. Therefore, Yixian's strongest attack was still strength. He quickly approached the Cyclops python and slashed down with his sword. Clang! At this moment, a crack suddenly appeared on the back of the one-eyed giant python, and a claw reached out and grabbed the Great Desolation sword. Claws? Yixian was shocked. How could a Cyclops python have claws? Could it be? Just as he was surprised, a unique creature crawled out of the one-eyed giant python's body. Flood dragon. It was actually a flood dragon. Furthermore, it was a one-eyed flood dragon. So that's how it is. Did the Cyclops python transform into a dragon? What I pierced just now was only its skin. Yixian instantly understood. He thought that the Cyclops giant python might have mutated because it had swallowed the heavenly whale dragon's tail. In that case, everything made sense. However, the strength of this one-eyed serpent dragon had most likely broken through to the strength of 10 dragons. Transforming once, from 7 dragons to 10 dragons of strength, this was a very rare thing. So what if you have the strength of 10 dragons? I will kill you all the same. Yixian shattered the 8 Desolation Heavenquake sword, but the impact couldn't do anything to the one-eyed serpent dragon. Now that I have the strength of 10 dragons, I can't rely on true Qi, and the same goes for the 8 Desolation Heaven Shaking Sword. Therefore, we can only use the Bahuang sword to fight. The toughness of the Bahuang sword had already exceeded Yixian's understanding. If he wanted to break through the one-eyed flood dragon's defense, he could only rely on the Bahuang sword. In an instant, Yixian shot forward. At the same time, the one-eyed flood dragon drilled out of the one-eyed python's skin. Both sides had the power of 10 dragons. They were the strongest creatures in the deep-sea palace. Fortunately, Yixian was faster than the one-eyed flood dragon. The Cyclops python relies on devouring. After it transforms into a flood dragon, it gains 4 more claws. Since that's the case, I'll cripple your 4 claws first. Yixian rushed under the one-eyed flood dragon and stabbed his sword into its claws. His full-strength attack could only barely break through the one-eyed flood dragon's defense. If his strength was reduced by 2 dragons, he definitely wouldn't be able to break through. The Beast King's rampage won't last long. We need to finish it quickly. Yixian mustered up his strength and sent the Bahuang sword into the one-eyed flood dragon's claws. However, the one-eyed flood dragon's claws were longer than the Bahuang sword. This attack was not enough to kill the one-eyed flood dragon. I don't care so much. I'll break one of your claws first. Yi Xian swung the Bahuang sword with all his strength and cut a big hole in the dragon's claws. Dragon blood flowed out. At this time, the one-eyed flood dragon raised its claws and tried to grab Yi Xian. Xiao! Yi Xian quickly dodged. However, at this moment, a unique notification sound rang in his mind. Ding! The Bahuang sword has started to absorb the wyvern's blood. Current progress is 3%. What? Yi Xian was shocked for a moment. This was the first time the system mentioned the Bahuang sword. That was secondary. The main thing was, what did the wyvern sword mean? Yi Xian looked down and found that the dragon blood on the Bahuang sword was quickly drying up and being absorbed by the Bahuang sword. Ding! The Bahuang sword's current dragon blood concentration is 5%. After hearing the second notification, Yi Xian suddenly remembered something. The Bahuang dragon slaying sword. If I want to learn the second stage of the Bahuang sword, shouldn't I soak the Bahuang sword in the wyvern's blood? Yi Xian was shocked. The sacred beast in front of him with the strength of 10 dragons was just a flood dragon. In the next moment he understood. The one-eyed giant python swallowed the heavenly whale flood dragon's tail and mutated. Could it be that the heavenly whale flood dragon has the wyvern's blood? When Yi Xian thought about it this way, it made sense. Whatever, since the one-eyed flood dragon's blood can activate the Bahuang sword, let's do it. In an instant, a surge of power surged out of Yi Xian's body and directly pierced the Bahuang sword into the one-eyed flood dragon's claw. This time, he directly let go and left the Bahuang sword in the flood dragon's body. The Bahuang sword was not in his hand and the system did not prompt, but Yi Xian knew that the Bahuang sword was absorbing the one-eyed flood dragon's blood. The one-eyed flood dragon felt that something was wrong and swept its claw, trying to pull the Bahuang sword out. You want to pull the sword out? Have you asked me? Yi Xian quickly rushed over and threw a punch. The strength of 10 dragons poured out. Don't forget, he had the Beast King blood in his body, and the one-eyed flood dragon was a beast, so its attack was enhanced. This punch was almost equivalent to the strength of 11 dragons. Bang! The one-eyed flood dragon's claw was knocked away. It was in disbelief and swept its claw again, but it was still knocked away by Yi Xian's punch. The Bahuang sword was constantly devouring its blood, but this blood was nothing to it. So it simply ignored it and raised its claw to attack wildly. Bang! 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 Yi Xian and the one-eyed flood dragon exchanged blows. At this time, his expression was not very good, because the Beast King's rampage was about to end. This is the second time I've used Beast King's rampage. This time, it consumed 101 dragon sacred beast corpses. Next time it might be 1,000. I won't use it if I can. This was Yi Xian's thought. If he used the third Beast King's rampage, he would definitely be able to kill the one-eyed flood dragon. He hurriedly rushed over and placed his hand on the Bahuang sword. Ding! The Bahuang sword's current dragon blood concentration is 85%. It was almost time. Bang! Bang! Yi Xian and the one-eyed flood dragon exchanged 2 blows, and immediately, the Bahuang sword on the dragon's claw began to tremble violently. Boom! An earth-shattering dragon's roar resounded throughout the entire shark city. It's done! Yi Xian's eyes narrowed, and he instantly pulled out the Bahuang sword, and then recorded the Bahuang dragon slaying sword in the devouring system to learn it. If you want to use the Bahuang dragon slaying sword, you have to meet 2 conditions. 1. Soak in the wyvern blood. 2. Learn the Bahuang dragon slaying sword. Chapter 348. Dragon Slaying Sword of Desolation. Ding! Host has learned the dragon slaying sword technique. A notification sounded in Yi Xian's ears. Come out, dragon slaying sword of 8 desolation. Yi Xian circulated all the Zhen Qi in his body and condensed a dragon-slaying greatsword that was 1 size smaller than Bahuang greatsword. It was only 3 meters long. He held the sword in his hand and gently cut the dragon claw of the one-eyed flood dragon. Along with a sizzling sound, the entire dragon claw was cut off with ease. So sharp. This scene seemed familiar to Yi Xian. It was when he dealt with the giant lava tortoise in the Great Tang Dynasty. There was no stuttering at all. The incision was smooth, as if he was cutting tofu. F***ck. My Zhen Qi is quickly depleting. Yi Xian hurriedly took out a few pills and swallowed them to recover his Zhen Qi. At this time, one of the one-eyed flood dragon's front claws was cut off, and its whole body lost its balance and fell down. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yi Xian quickly made his way to the one-eyed flood dragon's head. Dragon-slaying sword of 8 desolation, dragon's judgment. With a draconic roar, Yi Xian viciously shattered the dragonslayer sword and unleashed a gigantic white slash. This strike was the quintessence of the second stage of the 8 desolation sword technique, the dragon-slaying strike of 8 desolation. According to the description on that parchment, this dragon-slaying sword was extremely powerful, and it had a damage amplification effect on dragons. This slash was extremely fast, even faster than Yi Xian could react. He only felt a flash of white light enter the one-eyed flood dragon's neck, then swept into the distance, finally disappearing into the horizon. At this time, the head of the one-eyed flood dragon that had fallen to the ground suddenly separated from its body. Beheading. The power of this attack had greatly exceeded Yi Xian's expectations. The dragon-slaying sword of 8 desolation dealt bonus damage to dragons, and the Beast King bloodline also dealt bonus damage to beasts. With the two of them stacked together, slicing off the head of a one-horned WYRM with a strength of 10 dragons was not an issue. How terrifying! It actually consumes half of the Xianxia in my body to use it. The more Xianxia I have, the more powerful it is. Yi Xian thought to himself. Even the one-horned flood dragon with the strength of 10 dragons was instantly killed. If the shark soldiers and shark generals were here, they would definitely be scared out of their wits. But at this time, Yi Xian suddenly thought of a very important problem. The one-eyed giant python had suddenly transformed into a one-horned flood dragon. Did that mean that its snake gallbladder still existed? At the thought of this, Yi Xian took a big stride forward and absorbed the dragon's head and corpse into his devouring space. Then, he dismembered the one-eyed flood dragon in the devouring space. Fortunately, the one-eyed flood dragon had not completely transformed, so the snake gall was still there. If Yi Xian had been a step slower, it would have completely transformed into a cyclops flood dragon. At that time, the snake gall would have disappeared. A holy beast corpse and holy beast soul with the strength of 10 dragons. Yi Xian grinned and swallowed the 2 items. Ding! The host has broken through to the strength of 9 dragons. The strength of 9 dragons, 1 more dragon, and I will break through to the strength of 10 dragons. Yi Xian thought to himself. Next, he would wander around the entire shark city, killing the shark soldiers and shark generals who had not yet escaped. Now, the shark city was an empty city. The shark king was dead, and even the one-eyed giant python was dead. Then, Yi Xian rushed back to the dragon palace. When he came, he had the strength of 6 dragons, but now, he had the strength of 9 dragons, which increased his speed by more than half. In just 10 minutes, he arrived at the dragon palace. However, he felt that the atmosphere in the dragon palace was a bit strange. He shouted for a while under the city wall, but no one came to open the door. Something happened. Yi Xian's heart trembled. He directly went forward and punched the city gate. The strength of 9 dragons poured out and instantly blasted a big hole in the city gate. Less than an hour after he left, something happened in the dragon palace. Then, the reason must be within the sea dragon clan. Just then, a group of shrimp soldiers and crab generals passed by. Yi Xian hurriedly went to catch the captain and asked, "What happened?" Although the captain didn't recognize Yi Xian's appearance, he heard that there were a few human guests in the dragon palace. He immediately replied, "General Lei and Commander Lei betrayed us and even captured the princess and the prince." "What?" Yi Xian was stunned and asked again, "Where are they?" "In the dragon palace." The dragon palace was the place where the dragon king lived. Yi Xian immediately rushed to the dragon palace. At this time, in front of the dragon palace, there were countless shrimp soldiers and crab generals gathered. On the stairs of the Dragon King Palace, there were a few 6-armed sea demons, including Commander Wu. These 6-armed sea monsters were all commander-level experts with the strength of 3 dragons. Among them, there was a particularly tall 6-armed sea monster. He was the Sea Dragon Clan's General Lei. Not only that, on the other side of the stairs, there were some Naga sea monsters. These Naga sea monsters were controlling several people. If Yi Xian was present, he would definitely be furious. This was because Song Suijing and Song Caijue were among them, as well as Yuman and the other members of the Sea Dragon Clan's royal family. "Ha ha ha, Yu, what happened to you?" A loud laughter resounded. In the middle of the open space, there were 2 figures fighting. One of them was Yu, and the other was the six-armed sea monster General Lei. Yue, I have already broken through to the strength of 4 dragons. Do you really think that you are the #1 genius? Change back to your original form. Otherwise, you will die under my blade. There were 4 flying dragons circling Commander Lei's body. Yue also had the strength of 4 dragons, but this General Lei was too heaven-defying. He actually grew 6 arms, and Yue was unable to fight back. Ha ha, Yue, where is the dragon pearl? Tell me and I will let them go. General Lei shouted from above. I don't know where the dragon pearl is. Yue clenched his teeth and replied. Since that's the case, I will start killing your relatives one by one. General Lei's eyes flashed with killing intent. He ordered his men to grab a member of the Sea Dragon clan and raise the butcher knife in his hand. No, I really don't know. Yue anxiously roared from below. Haha, whether you know or not, he will die. General Lei laughed and prepared to kill Yu's cousin. However, at this moment. Wait a minute. Suddenly, a girl's voice resounded from the side. General Lei turned his head and found that the one who spoke was the Sea Dragon clan's princess, Yu Man. He frowned and asked, Your brother doesn't know, do you know? Yes, I know where the dragon pearl is. Yu Man solemnly nodded. Tell me about it. General Lei was interested. He originally thought that Yu Man didn't know anything. After all, she hadn't even reached the strength realm. But now, he saw that Yu Man seemed to know something. Chapter 349. Betrayal inside your body? General Lei was shocked. Yes, inside my body. Yu Man nodded. My father said that when I was born, my body was extremely weak and I could die at any time. So my father gave me the dragon pearl. All these years, I have been refining the dragon pearl. Just a while ago, I finally merged with the dragon pearl. What? Merged into one? General Lei was shocked again. Yes, merged into one. As long as I break through to the physical strength realm, I can start refining the dragon pearl. Yu Man said. The ancestors of the Sea Dragon clan had the strength of 9 dragons. If she could completely refine the dragon pearl, she would have the strength of 9 dragons. After General Lei heard this, he quickly rushed over and grabbed Yu Man's white neck, lifting her up. I don't want to listen to your nonsense. Hand over the dragon pearl and I will spare your life. General Lei shouted coldly. The dragon pearl has merged with me. I can't take it out. Yu Man said with difficulty. General Lei was silent. He felt that what Yu Man said was true. If the dragon pearl really merged with Yu Man, it would be useless if it was forcefully taken out. However, if he didn't take it out, what use would Yu Man be to him? Is there any way to take it out? General Lei continued to ask. Yu Man glanced at Yue and the others and nodded. As long as I break through to the physical strength realm, I can sacrifice myself to condense the dragon pearl. Breakthrough? If Yu Man broke through, she would have the strength of 9 dragons. It would be easy for her to kill them. General Lei wasn't stupid. But in the next moment, he thought of something. As long as he controlled Yue and the others, Yu Man would have no choice but to obey. However, he didn't understand. If the Dragon King chose to give up on the dragon pearl and Yu Man, and attacked with a sky whale flood dragon, then they would be dead. Damn it, I didn't expect the dragon pearl to merge with this girl. General Lei gritted his teeth and hesitated for a moment before he made a decision. Kill them all. General Lei shouted angrily. What? Everyone widened their eyes. It seemed that General Lei was planning to give up on the dragon pearl. Those Naga sirens and 6-armed sirens were all General Lei's men. After hearing General Lei's instructions, Xianxia mercilessly dropped the butcher's knife. Song Sui Jing, who had been caught, was already in despair. She thought of Xianxia in her heart. She regretted that her strength was so weak that she could not help at all. However, just as General Lei's voice fell, a figure rushed out. With a few cold flashes, the heads of the rebel soldiers all fell to the ground, including General Lei. What? Commander Lei was stunned. By the time he reacted, General Lei and the others had all become corpses. General Lei was the father of General Lei, Lei Ming, and had the strength of 5 dragons. However, he had been instantly killed by someone of such a realm. Only an expert with the strength of 6 dragons could do that. However, the person who had killed General Lei far surpassed the power of 6 dragons, reaching the power of 9 dragons. Xian. When the captive saw the figure on the stairs, Song Sui-jing couldn't help but shout out. From the moment General Lei betrayed them to the moment they were captured, she hadn't said a single word, because she was useless as a peak Heavenly Core warrior. The same went for Adjudicator Song. Just now they had realized how weak they were. It's all right now. Yi Xian smiled. The 8 desolate sword instantly broke into pieces. Then he flew 1,000 meters away and killed General Lei. Now, all the rebel soldiers had been killed. He was glad that he had returned in time. If not, they would have been in great danger. After seeing Yi Xian, everyone let out a sigh of relief. Killing a group of 5 dragons and a dozen 3 or 4 dragons in the blink of an eye, only Yi Xian could do that. Yi Xian hastily rushed over to Song Sui-jing and checked her condition. After that, he asked with a loud voice, "Are you all right?" "We're fine." Yu Yi shook his head and walked over. He didn't expect that after Yi Xian left, General Lei would suddenly appear and capture all the members of the Sea Dragon clan as hostages. "That's good." Yi Xian nodded his head. He glanced at Song Sui-jing, then he said with a smile, "The vicious shark clan has been destroyed, and the Cyclops serpent has been killed by me. I've also retrieved the snake gall. You don't have to worry." What? Everyone was dumbfounded. Things were really full of twists and turns. General Lei had just died, and now Yi Xian was telling them such a shocking news. The evil shark clan was annihilated. This was great news. General Lei's betrayal was just a small interlude. All their corpses were retrieved by Yi Xian. Then he devoured them. Half a day later, the Dragon King returned. When he heard the news of the vicious shark clan's destruction, he was also shocked. When Yi Xian took out the Cyclops serpent snake gall and the heaven-level martial arts, the Dragon King almost cried. This time, Yi Xian didn't intend to ask for anything from them. After all, the benefits of low-level Saint Beast's corpses were too little for him. Even if he had the Beast King bloodline's 10% devouring benefits, it wasn't as good as going out to kill a stronger Saint Beast. In the following days, Yi Xian stayed in the Dragon Palace because Song Sui-jing and Song Jeju were about to break through. Not only them, but the Sea Dragon Princess, Yuman, was also trying to break through. 7 days later, Yuman successfully condensed her soul and obtained the strength of 1 dragon. After breaking through, the dragon pearl in her body was directly refined, allowing her to break through to the strength of 3 dragons. For her to be able to break through so quickly, other than the stimulation from before, Yi Xian also contributed greatly. Without the 5 dragon soul of the holy beast that Yi Xian brought, she'd probably need a few more days to break through. Although she had the strength of 3 dragons, the dragon pearl contained the strength of 9 dragons. Therefore, she still had a long way to go. However, on the 3rd day after Yuman's breakthrough, Song Sui-jing and Song Jeju had also reached a critical juncture. At this time, in a palace of the Dragon Palace, Yi Xian sat cross-legged behind Song Sui-jing and Song Jeju. He placed his hands on their backs and helped them refine the Saint Beast soul. With a dragon roar, a dragon condensed around Song Sui-jing and Song Jeju. 1 dragon's strength. Vigor realm. Phew, I finally broke through to the vigor realm. Yi Xian let out a sigh of relief. Since the last time they entered the state of ice and fire, the 2 siblings hadn't succeeded. Therefore, their cultivation speed had slowed down. After breaking through, the 2 siblings looked at each other and seemed to have made a decision in their hearts. Breakthrough, we can continue on our journey. Chapter 350. Human? Right now, Yi Xian had just broken through to the 9 dragons bloodline. Of the 3 peak bloodlines, only his physique bloodline had improved. His battle bloodline and support bloodline had yet to improve. Thus, he wanted to go to the Bloodstone continent as soon as possible. However, at this time, Song Sui-jing suddenly said, "Yi Xian, I think we should stay in the Heavenly Water continent for now." What? Yi Xian was startled. Staying in the Heavenly Water continent? In the next moment, he reacted. Song Sui-jing was referring to her and Adjudicator Song. Yes, we still can't grasp that state. If we only refine the sacred beast soul, we won't be able to catch up to you. Therefore, we decided to stay in the Heavenly Water continent and wait until we master that state before going to the Heavenly Water continent. Judge Song nodded. Hearing this, Yi Xian carefully thought about it. Indeed, if Song Sui-jing and Adjudicator Song couldn't grasp that state, they definitely wouldn't be able to catch up to him. It was better to stay in the Heavenly Water Continent and let him go to the Bloodstone Continent to explore. All right, then you should return to the Heavenly Water Continent first. Yi Xian replied. Okay. Song Suijing nodded. Even so, Yi Xian still left a large number of sacred beast souls for Song Suijing and Adjudicator Song. Moreover, he personally sent them back to the Heavenly Water Continent. With the spirit boundary Lin Wanyue guarding the Heavenly Water Continent, there shouldn't be a problem. Afterward, Yi Xian left the Dragon Palace alone and went to the middle section of the Undersea Palace. After some time, he arrived at the back section of the Undersea Palace. At this time, it was already the 5th day since Yi Xian sent Song Suijing and Adjudicator Song back to the Heavenly Water Continent. Yi Xian, who was shuttling through the same passage, suddenly stopped. He looked at the map and estimated that it would take him another 10 minutes to leave the Undersea Palace and reach the Bloodstone Continent. Fortunately, he had a map. If he didn't have this map, even if he had the power of 9 dragons, he would probably be lost in it. We're finally here. Yi Xian revealed an expression of anticipation. He wondered what the strongest person in the Bloodstone Continent was. The latter part of the deep-sea underground palace was the same as the earlier part. They would only encounter holy beasts with a strength of 1 or 2 dragons. Therefore, all of these holy beasts entered Yi Xian's devouring space. However, just as Yi Xian was a step away from the entrance of the deep-sea underground palace, he heard a different cry. No! Yi Xian's body trembled. It was a girl's voice, and it sounded very young. She was at most 15 years old. Why are there other people in this deep-sea underground palace? Could they be from the Vicious Shark clan? Yi Xian was a little surprised. There were female sharks in the Vicious Shark clan. He felt that something was amiss and decided to take a look first. Immediately, he dashed towards the source of the sound. After he turned a corner, he saw 2 figures heading toward a petite figure. Cousin Xian, you better not resist. Although your aptitude is good, you can't stop the 2 of us. The leader of the 2 figures chuckled. Cousin, why are you doing this? A 15-year-old girl holding a woman's long sword asked timidly. Don't blame us. Who asked your father to obtain a heaven-level martial art and not hand it over to the clan? Cousin Xian, you better hand over the expanded version of that martial art, the leader said with a smile. I don't know. Father didn't teach me. The girl quickly shook her head. Do you think I'll believe you? Your father only has 1 daughter. How could he not teach it to you? Cousin Xian, you better hand it over. This way I might spare your life. Otherwise. The leader's eyes flashed with a demonic light as he spoke. At this time the other person on the side said in an obscene tone, Big brother, why don't you let me do it? I guarantee that she will spit out every word. You *Shoal. You even want to harm your own cousin? The young man in the lead directly slapped him. Big brother, don't you want to? Shut up. The leader's veins popped out on his forehead. He couldn't understand why he had such a stupid brother. He quickly turned his head and said with a smile, Cousin Xian, don't listen to him. As long as you hand over the heaven-level martial art, I won't do anything to you. The girl wasn't a fool. She wouldn't hand it over so easily. Moreover, she knew that if she handed it over, she would end up in a terrible state. There was no one else here. If she died, no one would know. At this time, she felt that something was wrong. From the corner of her eyes, she saw a 4th person around the corner. The 2 youths also noticed the girl's gaze and turned to look. Someone's here? How is this possible? We just found this deep-sea underground palace. The leader exclaimed. Kid, did you see something you shouldn't have? The other youth narrowed his eyes. The person peeking around the corner was naturally Yi Xian. He didn't expect that he would encounter such a scene. They were from the same clan, but for the sake of a heaven-level martial art, they actually faced each other with swords. The leader's younger brother was a beast with a human face. He had taken a fancy to his cousin's body. Seeing that Yi Xian didn't speak, the leader coldly said, Kid, do you want to be a hero and save the beauty? Hearing this, Yi Xian glanced at the few flying dragons around the young man in the lead and thought to himself, the Bloodrock continent is indeed worthy of being called the Bloodrock continent. The 3 of them actually have the strength of 8 dragons. I'm afraid my strength of 9 dragons is considered poor. He sighed in his heart, then turned to the girl and asked, What's your name? The girl was a little strange. After hesitating for a moment, she replied, Yi Xian, As expected. Yi Xian also felt a little surprised. He didn't expect to meet a little girl with a name so similar to his. Kid, what are you laughing at? The leader asked again. He also couldn't see through Yi Xian because Yi Xian didn't make a move. He didn't know what level Yi Xian was at. Nothing, I'm just laughing at you two scum. Yi Xian smiled. When these words sounded, the two youths' eyes revealed killing intent. The leader said in a low voice, Little brother, go and test his strength. Big brother, why don't you go? The other youth whispered. If I tell you to go, then go. This is my Yi clan's territory. His strength won't surpass 10 dragons. You are a disciple of my Yi clan. Could it be that you can't beat him? The leading youth reminded. When his younger brother heard this, he felt that it made sense. He strode towards Yi Xian. Chapter 351. Asking for news. Kill your entire family. When the young man who was walking towards Yi Xian heard this, he was immediately enraged. 8 dragons rose into the air and charged towards Yi Xian. How dare you be so arrogant in front of me with just the strength of 8 dragons? Yi Xian's eyes flashed and the Bahuang sword in his hand suddenly shattered. Whoosh! 8 sharp blades instantly unfurled and turned the young man into minced meat. The strength of 9 dragons meant that Yi Xian's chi was also at the strength of 9 dragons. The young man in front of him only had the strength of 8 dragons, so killing him in an instant was definitely not a problem. Seeing his own brother cut into pieces and lying in a pool of blood, the young man in the lead was completely stunned. They were disciples of the Yi family. Even if they encountered an expert with the strength of 9 dragons, they would still be able to fight. However, Yi Xian was only at the strength of 9 dragons, yet he was able to kill his brother in an instant. This meant that Yi Xian could also kill him in an instant. Let's go! The young man in the lead immediately made the decision to turn around and run. Yi Xian's lips curled slightly. You want to leave after cursing my entire family? Whoosh! 8 sharp blades swept out in an instant, cutting him into several pieces as well. Yi Xian was a vengeful person. Whoever cursed him, he would retaliate. However, if anyone cursed his family, they would only end up dead. Now that the two of them had been killed, only Yi Xian and the little girl, Yi Xianer, were left. Thank you, big brother, for saving my life, Yi Xianer said gratefully. Yi Xian walked over and took the two's yin and yang rings. Sure enough, disciples of aristocratic families who came out to train did not bring many things. He sighed helplessly and turned to ask, Why are you here? We found this underwater palace by chance. We wanted to collect some treasures and ores from the deep sea, but we didn't expect. Yi Xianer said gloomily. Then I'll be fine if I kill your 2 cousins, right? Yi Xian asked again. They deserve to die. However, they also have some weight in the Yi family. If they don't return for a long time, the family will become suspicious. But this will have to wait at least a few months. As Yi Xianer spoke, she asked again, May I know big brother's name? Yi Xian, Xian as in Gao Xian, Yi Xian replied. When Yi Xianer heard this name, she was also shocked. She never thought that their names would be so similar. Xianer once again thanks big brother Yi for saving my life. Yi Xianer thanked him again. However, Yi Xian felt that she was still very vigilant. After all, something like this had happened. Her 2 cousins had been killed by Yi Xian, and her Qian Kuan ring had also fallen into Yi Xian's hands. And just now, Yi Xian had heard their conversation and understood that her father had obtained a Tian-level martial art. Therefore, it was not impossible for Yi Xian to make a move against her. Killing people to steal treasures was a common sight. Miss Xianer, you don't have to be so nervous. If I wanted to kill you, you would already be dead. After Yi Xian finished speaking with a smile, he rushed forward like an arrow. His actions also scared Yi Xianer to the point of choking. She hurriedly threw out a slash. However, this slash was easily dodged by Yi Xian. At the same time, the 8 sharp blades were already flying towards Yi Xianer. Still can't escape death. Yi Xianer looked at the 8 streaks of light and thought to herself. She knew that she would definitely not be able to dodge this attack, so she could only close her eyes in despair. Swish! 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 The 8 sharp blades were extremely fast and arrived in front of Yi Xianer in the blink of an eye. However, what surprised Yi Xianer was that even after a second had passed, she still did not feel any pain. She opened her eyes strangely and found that the 8 sharp blades were all floating in front of her. As for Xian, he was slowly walking over. Haha, sorry, I saw that you were hostile towards me, so I did this. Xian said in shame. He was only proving his strength to Xianer. Xianer heaved a sigh of relief in her heart. It seemed that Xian did not want to kill her and steal her treasures. Xian had the strength to kill her, but he did not do so. This was enough to prove that Xian's words were true. Thank you, big brother Yi. Xianer thanked him again. Xian withdrew his Bahuang sword and said, It's fine. Although I, Xian, have killed people to steal treasures, I won't do anything to a little girl. Right, do you have a map? Map. Xianer blinked and asked curiously, Big brother Yi, you want the map of the deep-sea underground palace? No, it's the outside. Xian shook his head. Hearing this, Xianer directly took out a map of the outside and handed it over. Xian took it and looked at it. This was a map of the Luoxia region. It was probably about the same size as the Heavenly Water continent, so this should only be a corner of the Blood Rock continent. Where are we now? Xian turned and asked. Big brother Yi, you. Xianer did not understand. Xian hurriedly smiled and said, We were chased by enemies and blindly fled, so I wanted to confirm our position. When Xianer heard this, she did not think too much about it. She pointed to a place on the map and said, The deep-sea palace we are currently in is here. If we head west for another 2 days, we will reach my Yi family. Then, Miss Xianer, have you heard of the Imperial Palace? Xian asked again. The reason why he saved Xianer, besides being a good Samaritan, was to find a guide. After all, he had not stepped into the Blood Rock continent yet. Imperial Palace? Big brother Yi, why do you ask? The Luoxia region is under the jurisdiction of the Battle King Palace. Xianer was puzzled. Battle King Palace. Xian was stunned. This name was not right. At this time, Xianer asked again. Could it be that big brother Yi ran all the way from the Beast King Palace to the Luoxia region? Heavens, if you want to pass through a region, even if you have a flying mount, it would take at least years. Beast King Palace? Xian was already stupefied when he heard this. Why did another royal palace come out? I am not very familiar with geography. Miss Xianer, other than the Battle King Palace and the Beast King Palace, are there any? Xian quickly changed the topic. There is also the Tool King Palace, the Battle King Palace, the Beast King Palace, and the Tool King Palace. These 3 king palaces divide the entire eastern continent. Xianer replied. Imperial Palace, there were actually 3 imperial palaces. Xian was silent. The Great Elder only told him 2 words, and that was the Imperial Palace. Could it be that even father does not know which Imperial Palace mother is in? Xian thought to himself. Suddenly, Xianer seemed to have thought of something and said, Oh right, these 3 Imperial Palaces used to be one, but because of some things they split up, so there are these 3 Imperial Palaces. This should be something that happened in the last 10 or 20 years, right? Xian asked again. Xianer nodded. Yes, I was not born at that time, so I am not very clear. Understood. Chapter 352. Sword Saint Bloodline. When Yi Chong was around 20 years old, he went to the Blood Rock continent and met Yi Xian's mother at that time. Later on, Yi Chong came back with a baby boy. This baby boy was Yi Xian. Yi Chong stayed in the Yi family for a few years. After recovering from his injuries, he went back to the Blood Rock continent. Therefore, the splitting of the Imperial Palace into 3 Imperial Palaces should have happened when Yi Chong returned to the Sky Water continent. Yi Xian didn't think too much about it. After all, he was only in the Strength realm, while Yi Chong was already in the Spirit realm when he returned to the Blood Rock continent. Thus, he still had a long way to go. All right, Miss Xianer, are these deep-sea treasures very valuable? Yi Xian suddenly asked. Yes, because the sea is very dangerous. Sometimes, you will encounter saint beasts that have the strength of 1 dragon. Sometimes, you will even encounter saint beasts that are comparable to the spirit realm. Therefore, the deep-sea treasures are much more valuable than those on land. Yi Xian nodded. So it's like that. When I was escaping from my enemies, I escaped into the deep-sea palace and obtained quite a few deep-sea treasures. I wonder how much I can get. Yi Xian sank his consciousness into the Devour dimension. There were large amounts of deep-sea treasures inside. He had devoured some before, but felt that the benefits were too low, so he kept them. Big Brother Yi, I'm still a disciple of the Broken Moon clan. Our Broken Moon clan is currently lacking in deep-sea treasures. If we go to the Broken Moon clan's shops to sell them, the price will be much higher. Yi Xian'er explained. Then take a look at these. How much can you get? Yi Xian said as he poured the contents of the Devour dimension into a yin and yang ring and handed it over. Yi Xian'er took the yin and yang ring and her expression immediately changed. She quickly calculated in her mind and said, Yi, Big Brother Yi, you can probably get 500,000 soul condensing stones with these. Only 500,000? Yi Xian was stunned. Only? Yi Xian'er said helplessly, Big Brother Yi, 500,000 soul condensing stones is enough to buy a heaven-level martial art. Oh, is that so? Yi Xian paused. It seemed like his Sword Monarch bloodline could be upgraded to Sword Saint bloodline. In order to upgrade a high-grade Sword Emperor bloodline to a top-grade Sword Saint bloodline, a heaven-class martial art was required. Furthermore, it had to be a sword art. He had enough Devour crystals, so he only needed one more heaven-class sword art to raise his Sword Emperor bloodline to the highest level. By the way, I heard that your father obtained a heaven-tier martial art. What type is it? Yi Xian suddenly asked. Hearing this, Yi Xian'er's body violently trembled. After a long while she replied, It's a sword technique. Sword technique. Yi Xian's eyes lit up. He could really get whatever he wanted. Then, do you have this heaven-tier martial art with you? I can use these treasures to buy them from you. Yi Xian asked again. This? Yi Xian'er hesitated for a moment, then nodded slightly. She took out a piece of clothing and tore it open in front of Yi Xian. Yi Xian watched as she tore open the clothing. He immediately understood that the heaven-tier martial art was actually written on the inner layer of the clothing. Big Brother Yi, you saved my life. I'll take this to repay you. Yi Xian'er handed the clothing over. Thank you very much. Yi Xian smiled faintly and took the clothing. He then looked at it from top to bottom and recorded it into the Devour system. Ding. Host has learned the Heavenly Wind Sword Art. Current proficiency level is 10%. When he heard the notification in his mind, Yi Xian was astonished. He did not expect that the heaven-tier martial art would have an additional proficiency level. Obviously, if the proficiency level was increased, then the power of this martial art would increase. In the next moment, he understood how to increase the proficiency level. That was to continuously perform and comprehend the essence of this sword art. However, it was not too difficult for Yi Xian to comprehend. After all, he still had the bloodline. Ding. Host has successfully fused with the Sword Saint bloodline. The Sword Saint bloodline could increase one's comprehension and sword art power by 40%. Previously, he did not understand much about comprehension, but now he finally understood that it was used to increase the proficiency level. Not only that, after fusing with the Sword Saint bloodline, Yi Xian also gained a new skill called Sword Art Fusion. Simply put, it was able to fuse two sword arts into a higher level. However, the lowest level of fusion was Heaven-tier martial arts. Sword Saint bloodline. Advancement Path 1. Comprehension. Current level of advancement is 4. Every advancement will increase one's comprehension of sword arts by 10%. Advancement Path 2. Sword Art Power. Current level of advancement is 4. Every advancement will increase one's sword art power by 10%. Advancement Path 3. Sword Art Fusion. Current level of advancement is 1. Every advancement will increase one's fusion power by 10%. This sword art fusion was very practical. As long as Yi Xian obtained another heaven-tier sword art, he could fuse it with the Sky Wind sword art. At that time, he might obtain a middle-tier heaven-tier sword art. Of course, there was a success rate. Furthermore, fusing sword arts required a large amount of Devour crystals. If he tried a few more times, Yi Xian might go bankrupt. Upgrading the Sword Emperor bloodline to the Sword Saint bloodline increased Yi Xian's comprehension and sword power by 10%. This also improved the 8 Desolation sword art. Currently, Yi Xian had only learned 2 stages of the 8 Desolation sword art. One was the 8 Desolation Heavenquake sword art, and the other was the 8 Desolation Dragon Slaying sword art. Currently, the 8 Desolation Heavenquake sword art was useless. Its effect was not ideal. However, the 8 Desolation Dragon Slaying Sword Art was very useful. The 8 Desolation Dragon Slaying Sword Art already had a damage bonus against dragons. In addition to the Sword Saint bloodline, its power increased by 40%. In addition, there was also the 10% increase from the Beast King bloodline. If he used Dragon's Judgment, he might be able to instantly kill a dragon-type Saint Beast that was stronger than Yi Xian. Xian, take these treasures as a reward for learning this martial art. Yi Xian smiled and handed over the yin and yang ring in his hand. Big brother Yi, this won't do. Yi Xian hurriedly refused. Yi Xian tried to persuade her, but Yi Xian still wouldn't accept, so he could only give up. Big brother Yi, are you still staying in the Deep Sea Palace? Yi Xian asked. I've stayed in the Deep Sea Palace for a few months. My enemies outside should have already left. It's time to leave. Yi Xian nodded. He felt that it was best if he didn't reveal that he came from the Sky-Water continent. Then I'll go with Big Brother Yi. I can also take Big Brother Yi to the shops under the Broken Moon clan. The price will be higher than normal. Yi Xian smiled. All right, thank you. Yi Xian agreed. He saw that Yi Xian was only holding a high-tier Earth-tier item, so he wanted to buy a Heaven-tier item for Yi Xian. The two immediately prepared to leave the Deep Sea Palace. Chapter 353. Blood Rock Continent. When Yi Xian saw the sun again, he found out that the exit of the underground palace was on a cliff. Moreover, the entrance was very small, almost like a crack in the rock. Only one person could enter at a time. Therefore, it was due to luck that the three of them were able to find this underground palace. Wei Zhentian, come out. After leaving the underground palace, Yi Xian called out Wei Zhentian. After consuming a large amount of ores, Wei Zhentian had grown to the strength of 6 dragons. Wei Zhentian was a rock spirit, a mutated beast. Instead of consuming the soul of a saint beast, it would be more practical to give it ores. After it appeared, it turned into a stone statue. Yi Xian jumped on its back and said to Yi Xian, Xian, come here. Big brother Yi, this is. Yi Xian, asked in astonishment. It's my mount. Don't worry, come here. Yi Xian explained. Yi Xian blinked her eyes and jumped on Wei Zhentian's back. So mysterious, is it also a type of saint beast? Yes, it can be considered as one. Yi Xian casually replied and ordered Wei Zhentian to rise and head in a certain direction. With the strength of 6 dragons, Wei Zhentian's speed was extremely fast. Originally, Yi Xian would need to travel for 3 days, but Wei Zhentian only took half a day. Half a day later, Yi Xian pointed at a city in front of them and said, Big brother Yi, that is Bamboo Leaf City, a city under my Broken Moon clan. Yi Xian nodded slightly. Along the way, he had understood many things. For example, the Broken Moon clan that Yi Xian was in had experts with strength of over 30 dragons. However, the Luo Sha region had countless clans like the Broken Moon clan. As for the imperial palaces, each of them was a colossal existence. Each imperial palace had experts that surpassed the 4th stage of the spirit stage. After the spirit stage was the void god stage. Therefore, Yi Xian still had a long way to go. Wei Zhentian landed outside Bamboo Leaf City, and then Yi Xian, led by Yi Xian, entered Bamboo Leaf City. Brother Yi, I'll take you to the Broken Moon clan's shop. After entering the city, Yi Xian directly said. There's no rush. Let's find a place to eat first. Yi Xian smiled faintly. It wasn't like they would run out of food, so there was no rush. Then Big brother Yi, follow me. I often come to this Bamboo Leaf City. I know which restaurant is delicious. Yi Xian said as she walked in front like a tour guide, explaining to Yi Xian about Bamboo Leaf City. After a while, they arrived at a restaurant. Yi Xian was in charge of ordering while Yi Xian was secretly smacking his lips at the side. The Bloodstone continent is truly worthy of its name. Just a random restaurant would actually use the meat of a saint beast to cook. If one grew up eating this kind of food, it would be strange if they weren't strong. Yi Xian thought to himself. Very soon, the dishes were served. Yi Xian tasted a mouthful and found that the taste was indeed not bad. He couldn't help but want to eat. Big brother Yi, do you have any plans after this? Yi Xian asked. Not yet. Yi Xian shook his head. the Broken Moon clan will be joining forces with 2 other clans to hold a martial arts competition. The winner will be rewarded handsomely. Xianxia said with a smile. Big brother Yi, you're so strong, you'll definitely get a good result. My talent is bad. I'm already 19 and only have 9 dragons of strength. It'll be embarrassing if I go up. Xianxia shook his head. He knew his own limits. Xianxia was only 15 years old and already had 8 dragons of strength. Her talent was much better than his. That's fine. The martial arts competition is divided into different levels. Big brother Yi just so happens to have 9 dragons, so you can participate in the 9-dragon group. Those with 10 dragons and above will participate in the higher level competition. Xianxia smiled and said, I heard that the reward for the first place of the 9 groups is a 10-year-old dragon bloodgrass. If cultivators with 10 dragons and below consume it, they'll directly increase their strength by 3 dragons. Xianxia's eyes lit up. This was a good thing. It could replace quite a few Saint Beast souls. His interest was piqued and he asked, Then what's the reward for 10 dragons and above? It's a 100-year-old dragon bloodgrass. If a cultivator with 10 dragons of strength consumes it, they'll be able to increase their strength by at least 5 dragons. For those with 15 dragons and above, it'll depend on their talent. It might be able to increase their strength by 3 dragons, 2 dragons, or even 1 dragon. Xianxia replied. 5 dragons of strength, huh? Xianxia's eyes lit up. If he could obtain all of them, he could directly break through to 15 dragons and above. The location is the Water Moon clan. The time is 7 days later. Big brother Yi just so happens to have 9 dragons of strength, so you can go and try. Xianxia said. I'll see when the time comes. Xianxia nodded. Who knew, he might be able to break through again in 7 days. However, he could suppress his cultivation and go take a look at the martial arts competition. He didn't believe that under 10 dragons, there would be anyone who could beat him. However, at this time, the conversation between 2 cultivators in the corner attracted his attention. Have you heard? It's said that the undying sword god has started to challenge the sword god pagoda again. What? Isn't he seriously injured? All right, now he's starting to challenge the sword god pagoda again. He's really powerful. In the past few years, he's already challenged it over 1,000 times, but he still can't break through the last level. His strength might not be enough, but his perseverance is enough. Can't the sword god palace let him go? A country has its laws, and a family has its rules. Without rules, nothing can be accomplished. Without passing the sword god pagoda, he has no right to enter the sword god palace. Hearing this, Xianxia couldn't help but ask, What is the sword god palace? It's the strongest force in our eastern continent. Even the 3 great halls want to send people here. However, the sword god palace has never openly accepted people. If someone passes the sword god pagoda, they can enter the sword god palace. Xianxia explained. The undying sword god should be called the undying sword god. In the past few years, he's already challenged it countless times, but he still can't pass the last level. He's really persevering. Xianxia sighed. That's right. He's been challenging it once a day for several years. No one else is as hardworking as him. Xianxia nodded. Xianxia shrugged. He definitely couldn't do it. Unknowingly, he also thought of Yi Chong. That cheap father of his was a spirit realm expert a few years ago. Now he should be an empty god realm expert. He didn't want to think too much about it. After all, he was only in the spirit realm. Moreover, he had just entered the spirit realm. He hadn't even reached the 10-dragon power realm, let alone the spirit realm and empty god realm. After a while, the 2 left the restaurant. This time, they walked towards the largest shop in Bamboo Leaf City. Bamboo Leaf City was different from the cities in the Sky Water continent. There was no city lord in this city. Everything was managed by the Broken Moon clan. Chapter 354. Run. Under Xianxia's lead, Xianxia walked into a shop belonging to the Broken Moon clan. After that, Xianxia showed her identity badge and a middle-aged man quickly came to receive them. Oh, it's Xianxia. What brings you here today? The middle-aged man obviously knew Xianxia and smiled. Manager Chiu, I have a friend who wants something, and it's not a small amount. Xianxia said softly. Oh, come with me. The middle-aged man understood and led the two into a room with a soundproof array. Yi Xian didn't say anything and took out the yin and yang ring. I have some treasures from the deep sea. The middle-aged man took the yin and yang ring silently. He thought that it would only be 10 or 20,000 condensed soul stones, but he didn't expect that the items in the ring would be worth more than 500,000. The middle-aged man's eyes widened. The amount was beyond his expectations. In the next moment, he looked at Yi Xian with a strange expression and said, "Little brother, where did you get these heavenly and earthly treasures from the deep sea?" "Senior, you're asking about the source of the items when you're doing business?" Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. No. It's because the amount is too large. If we don't know where they came from." The middle-aged man didn't continue. "Don't worry, I picked these treasures myself." Yi Xian replied slowly. The middle-aged man paused and nodded. "Okay, I understand. However, the amount is too large, so I'll have to ask my superiors." "Okay." Yi Xian also understood that the items in the ring were worth a tier martial art. The middle-aged man returned the ring to Yi Xian and left. "Xian, is there anything else here?" After the middle-aged man left, Yi Xian couldn't help but ask. Yi Xian nodded. "Yes, there is. There's everything here, even martial art seeds." "Is that so?" Yi Xian was slightly surprised. Martial art seeds were extremely rare. Each seed represented a life because experts who were nearing the end of their lifespan would sacrifice themselves to pass down their martial arts. Soon, the middle-aged man returned. However, he brought two other people with him. "It's him." The middle-aged man pointed at Yi Xian. "What's going on?" Yi Xian and Yi Xian looked at each other in confusion, and the latter asked, "Protector Qiu, this is—" The middle-aged man coldly snorted. "The Broken Moon clan has lost a few batches of goods worth 500,000 condensed soul stones. I suspect that he's the person who stole the goods." Yi Xian hurriedly said to the middle-aged man, "This must be a misunderstanding. Whether it's a misunderstanding or not, we'll see. Capture him and interrogate him." The middle-aged man. As soon as he finished speaking, 3 wyverns flew out from the 2 guards. One was big, and the other 2 were small. 12 dragons of strength. The middle-aged man only had 10 dragons of strength, so he was sent here to take care of things. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to beat Yi Xian, so he called for 2 helpers. 2 guards with 12 dragons of strength were enough to fight against an expert with 13 dragons of strength. Yi Xian watched as they walked towards him. He was also pondering in his heart. He was wondering if he should resist and escape. But if he ran away, wouldn't Yi Xian be an accomplice? "Manager Qiu, you must be mistaken. Brother Yi harvested the deep-sea resources himself." Yi Xian hurriedly explained. "I said, it's up to you to decide whether it's true or not. Xian it's best if you don't interfere. Even if your master is an elder, he can't stop me." The middle-aged man said as he turned to look at Yi Xian. At this moment, the 2 guards made a move. They extended their hands at the same time and placed them on Yi Xian's shoulders. But just as they touched Yi Xian, 3 dragons suddenly appeared around Yi Xian's body. 1 big and 2 small. That was 12 dragons. What? The 2 guards were shocked. By the time they reacted, a fist had already landed on their chests and sent them flying. Yi Xian originally wanted to surrender, but after hearing that Yi Xian's master was an elder of the Broken Moon clan, he changed his mind. With her master's protection, Yi Xian would definitely be fine. When the time came, as long as Yi Xian brought people to the Deep Sea Palace, he would be able to clear his name. The reason why Yi Xian acted was because he was afraid that this was a trap. He was afraid that the middle-aged man would covet these things and use him as a scapegoat. So he had to leave. After sending the 2 guards flying, Yi Xian took a big stride and left the room. "Damn it, Chase!" The middle-aged man felt a gust of wind blow past and hurriedly shouted. His guess was wrong. He was willing to think that Yi Xian only had 10 dragons of strength, but he didn't think that he would have 12. The 2 guards immediately chased after him. "Xian, you've really made a big mistake this time. Tell me, how did you know him?" After escaping, Yi Xian immediately hid in the shadows of a small alley. He was a bit suspicious. Was he a bit too much of a jinx? Wherever he went, something would happen. Xian's master is an elder. As long as I explain it clearly, nothing will happen. I'll just be alone. Yi Xian helplessly shook his head and prepared to leave the city. But at this moment, "Thief, don't think of leaving." A loud shout rang out. Yi Xian's body trembled as he saw a person descend from the sky. It was an expert with 14 dragons of strength. Wei Zhentian. Yi Xian jumped in fright and hurriedly summoned his Wei Zhentian and quickly flew into the sky. What is this? The expert widened his eyes in shock and hurriedly turned back. He also had a flying mount, so he naturally wouldn't give up the chance to chase. In less than 10 seconds, Yi Xian flew out of Bamboo Leaf City. However, behind him, there was a stream of light chasing after him. Damn, he's here. Yi Xian's heart trembled. He hurriedly ordered his Wei Zhentian to land in the forest outside Bamboo Leaf City. At the physical strength realm, the Shadow Leopard's hiding effect was not very useful, so he only had one choice, and that was to fight. Beast King Rampage still has some time. If I want to leave, I'll have to kill him. Yi Xian immediately made a decision. He originally only had 9 dragons of strength, but after using Beast King Rampage, he forcefully increased it to 12 dragons of strength. He was only 2 dragons away from 14 dragons of strength. The difference between 1 dragon of strength and 2 dragons of strength was huge, but the difference between 12 dragons of strength and 14 dragons of strength was actually not that big of a difference. Yi Xian still had the Sword Saint bloodline, Beast King bloodline, and Bahuang's sword as his trump cards. Moreover, his agility had advanced twice. With 12 dragons of strength and a 20% increase in movement speed, he could almost reach 15 dragons of strength. Therefore, Yi Xian felt that he could fight against an expert with 14 dragons of strength. However, he was afraid that the opponent had a heaven-level movement technique. Chapter 355. Counterattack. Brat, don't even think of escaping. A loud shout rang out as a figure landed in front of Yi Xian. It was the 14-dragon expert who had chased after him. Yi Xian did not plan to waste any more time. He had already used Beast King Rage, so every second was precious. Brat, you dare to challenge me? You're courting death. The middle-aged man did not care about anything else and directly attacked Yi Xian. Facing such a predicament, the 8 Desolation Wind formation was useless. After all, Yi Xian's true chi was still at the strength of 9 dragons. His speed was nothing in the eyes of a 14-dragon expert. Therefore, he could only face him head-on. 8 Desolation Dragon Slaying Sword. A surge of true chi gushed out and condensed into a 3-meter-long dragon slaying sword. Yi Xian held the dragon slaying sword and rushed forward. At this moment, his opponent was a human. Therefore, the Beast King bloodline and 8 Desolation Dragon slaying sword were useless. The only thing that could help was the Sword Saint bloodline. Sky Wind Sword Technique. At this moment, Yi Xian began to use this newly learned sky-level martial art. The expert who had chased after him was also a swordsman and was not bad at all. When he saw that Yi Xian dared to show off his swordsmanship in front of him, he was furious. You're courting death. The middle-aged man waved his long sword and began to compete with Yi Xian. Powerhouses of the physical strength realm often engaged in close-range battles because they relied on their physique. In close-range battles, the winner and loser could be determined quickly. The two exchanged blows in an instant, and the sword shadows were confusing. The middle-aged man originally thought that he could finish off Yi Xian in 1 or 2 rounds, but he did not expect that Yi Xian's swordsmanship was also so impressive. Although Yi Xian's strength was slightly weaker, his speed was about the same as his. Therefore, the two were evenly matched. However, Yi Xian's strength was constantly increasing. Ding! Sky Wind Sword Technique proficiency increased by 10%. Current proficiency is 20%. Ding! Sky Wind Sword Technique proficiency increased by 10%. Current proficiency is 30%. Ding! The proficiency of Heavenly Wind Sword Technique has increased by 10%. Current proficiency is 40%. In just 10 rounds, Yi Xian's Heavenly Wind Sword Technique had reached 40% mastery. The bloodline of a sword saint is indeed extraordinary. Old man, let's see how long you can last. As his proficiency in the Heavenly Wind Sword Technique continued to increase, Yi Xian's sword technique also became more and more powerful. The Sword Saint's bloodline already increased the power of his sword skills by 40%. Now that his proficiency in the Heaven tier martial arts had increased, his attacks would naturally become even more powerful. Initially, the middle-aged man had been unable to do anything to Yi Xian. But now, he felt like he was retreating in defeat. Ding! The proficiency of Heavenly Wind Sword technique has increased by 10%. Current proficiency is 50%. Following this notification, Yi Xian's eyes flashed. Immediately after, a mini stone golem appeared around him. Wei Zhantian, restrict him as much as you can. Yi Xian immediately ordered in his mind. Wei Zhantian understood and immediately transformed into something else. When Yi Xian glanced at it, he was also shocked. Damn, a machine? Damn, how can it even transform into a machine? Yi Xian was shocked. At this moment, Wei Zhantian had already transformed into a 4-barrel machine. Following an ear-piercing sound, Wei Zhantian began to shoot wildly. What the hell is this? The middle-aged man was shocked. He could only watch as countless bullets swept towards him. He hurriedly used his free hand to block them. What was even more amazing was that although these bullets hit Yi Xian by mistake, they did not harm him at all. Good. Yi Xian's eyes lit up. He could clearly feel that the middle-aged man's speed had decreased. Although Wei Zhantian only had the strength of 6 dragons, his attack speed was already enough to threaten an expert with the strength of 10 dragons. Damn it, why is this kid so strange? The middle-aged man's expression became more and more serious. He could not figure out how Yi Xian had conjured this thing, and its power was not weak either. For a moment, he had a feeling that he could not do anything to Yi Xian. Ding! The proficiency of the Heavenly Wind Sword technique has increased by 10%. Current proficiency is at 60%. After 10 rounds, Yi Xian's proficiency increased again. This time, the middle-aged man was in trouble. Why did these attacks become so fierce again? The middle-aged man's expression changed. He was now being beaten back by Yi Xian. He was afraid that he would not be able to hold on much longer. He was an expert with a strength of 14 dragons. It was really ironic that he had fallen to such a state. However, this could not be blamed on him. Although Yi Xian only had the strength of 9 dragons, his true strength was not that weak. Coupled with the support of Wei Zhantian's barrage of bullets, he was beaten to the point where he could not fight back. However, after 30 rounds, the middle-aged man finally saw red. Moreover, his injury was not light. He was stabbed in the shoulder by Yi Xian. The middle-aged man's expression had already sunk to the bottom. He did not hesitate and immediately turned to leave. Do you think that you can come and go as you please? Yi Xian shouted coldly. He gave another order in his heart. Following that, Wei Zhantian suddenly grew a pair of wings and flew into the sky. What? The middle-aged man was shocked again. Wei Zhantian was on the ground, but he was already in such a state. Now that he was in the sky, wouldn't he be invincible? Go to hell! The middle-aged man was flustered and exasperated as he slashed at Wei Zhantian. This slash also split Wei Zhantian into 2 halves. However, almost in the blink of an eye, the 2 halves of Wei Zhantian's body merged back into one and returned to normal. What a joke! Wei Zhantian is a rock spirit. If he is not crushed into powder in an instant, he will not die. Yi Xian sneered in his heart. The middle-aged man could not stand Wei Zhantian's harassment and did not hesitate to attack Wei Zhantian. What he did would only increase the pressure on himself. Take his life while he is down. Yi Xian understood this principle. Rip. A series of crisp sounds rang out. An arm was thrown into the sky. Due to the middle-aged man's unnecessary movements, Yi Xian found a flaw and took the opportunity to cut off one of his arms. Moreover, it was the right arm that was holding the sword. It's over. The middle-aged man's expression stiffened. However, his reaction was extremely fast. He immediately took out another weapon. Unfortunately, Yi Xian was not slow either. Rip. Another arm was thrown into the sky. Now that both of the middle-aged man's arms were cut off, he was no longer able to resist Yi Xian's attack. Rip. When the third crisp sound rang out, what was thrown into the air was a head. Plop. Yi Xian looked at the head that fell to the ground and smiled slightly. At this moment, Wei Zhantian, who was in the sky, did not stop attacking. A series of attacks landed on the corpse, turning it into a sieve. All right, stop whipping the corpse. Isn't it just a slash? Yi Xian raised his head and said. Hearing this, Wei Zhentian stopped attacking. Then, he turned into a little bird and landed on Yi Xian's shoulder. This vengeful character was similar to Yi Xian. Chapter 356. Martial Arts Conference. After the middle-aged man's death, Yi Xian's Beast King Berserk also ended. He immediately put away the middle-aged man's belongings and corpse. Let me see what good stuff you have. After sinking his consciousness into the interspatial ring, Yi Xian's body trembled violently. An expert was indeed an expert. Not only was he strong, but he was also very wealthy. This person seems to be the chief steward that Steward Chiu mentioned. The things inside are probably comparable to a heaven-class martial arts technique. Yi Xian thought to himself. There were a large number of treasures and ores in the interspatial ring. There was even a heaven-class martial arts technique, which happened to be a sword technique. In addition, there was also the heaven-class longsword that the middle-aged man used. However, he did not examine it carefully because there might be more experts chasing after him. He had to leave first. Immediately, he summoned Wei Zhentian and quickly left. He traveled for a full half an hour before he finally stopped and dug a hidden cave for himself. Wei Zhentian, you did well this time. These ores are all yours. Yi Xian took out a large pile of valuable ores. Wei Zhentian did not stand on ceremony and immediately began to eat. If it had not taken action this time, Yi Xian might not have been able to kill the chief steward. At this time, Yi Xian stored the heaven-class sword technique in the middle-aged man's interspatial ring into the devour space. Then he began to fuse the martial arts. Ding! Fusion failed. After hearing the notification sound, Yi Xian shook his head helplessly. As expected, it was not so easy to fuse martial arts. If he had fused two low-grade heaven-class martial arts into a middle-grade martial arts technique on his first try, it would have been a miracle. Next, Yi Xian had a problem in front of him. Should he break through to the 10 dragons power level? At this time, in addition to the treasures in the deep sea, there were many good things in his devour space, such as the corpses of saint beasts, the souls of saint beasts, and elixirs. He estimated that if he devoured all of these, it would not be a problem for him to break through to the 12 dragons power level. However, Yi Xian-er's words echoed in his ears. 7 days later, the Water Moon sect would hold a martial arts conference, and anyone could participate. The first place of the 9 dragons group would be able to obtain a 10-year-old dragon bloodgrass. If a martial artist below 10 dragons consumed it, they would be able to increase their strength by 3 dragons. The first place of the 19 dragon group was a stock of 100-year-old dragon bloodgrass. Its effects were also quite good. If these 2 items were sold, they would be worth a lot of soul condensation stones, so Yi Xian was very interested in them. Forget it, I'll just stay at the power of 9 dragons for now. Anyway, this thing won't run away. I'll just devour it when I need it. After some thought, Yi Xian decided to participate in this martial arts conference. He was wondering if he could participate in the competition between the 2 groups at the same time. After consuming dragon bloodgrass for 10 years, he had broken through to 12 dragons. Then, if he consumed these natural treasures, he might be able to reach 14 and 45 dragons. At that time, he might even be able to fight his way into the top 3 of the 19 dragons. However, he decided to take a look first. After all, the 19 dragons group was definitely full of experts. He would take these resources from the deep sea first. With the previous example, he learned his lesson and didn't take them all in one place. Instead, he rode the Wei Zhentian and ran from city to city. It took him 3 days to take all the resources from the deep sea. Then, he asked around for the location of the Water Moon sect and hurried over. A day later, he arrived at the foot of the mountain of the Water Moon sect. The Water Moon sect was similar to the Broken Moon sect. There were 30 dragon experts in the sect. Apart from these 2 sects, there was also a sect called the Silver Moon sect. This martial arts conference was jointly held by the 3 sections. There was still some time before the martial arts conference. Yi Xian entered the Water Moon sect first and received a participant token. Then, he waited outside. In these few days, Yi Xian wasn't idle. He was practicing the Sky Wind sword style. Hard work paid off. Under the buff of the Sword Saint bloodline, the Sky Wind sword style was raised to 70%. 70% mastery was not something that an average person could grasp. An average martial artist would need at least a month to learn a heaven-grade martial art, And 70% mastery was something that even a martial artist with superior aptitude would need several years to achieve. The Sword Saint bloodline increased one's perception by 40%. Although it was only 140% of the previous perception, martial arts were sometimes lacking a little bit. Many cultivators were stuck at a certain point when they were practicing martial arts. Once they were stuck, they would be stuck for several years or even decades. But if one's perception increased by 10%, then the martial arts bottleneck that had been stuck for several years would be unblocked. Therefore, this 40% perception allowed Yi Xian to complete the path that others would take several years to complete in a few days. Even a Tian-level movement technique wouldn't be able to block a 70% sword style, not to mention my various bloodlines. Today was the day of the martial arts conference. Yi Xian grinned and walked into the Watermoon sect. "Sir, are you here to participate in the martial arts conference or to observe?" Yi Xian had just passed through the gate of the Watermoon sect when a pleasant voice drifted over. He turned his head and found that the speaker was a young and beautiful girl about 20 years old. "I'm here to participate," Yi Xian said with a smile. "This way, please." The Watermoon sect disciple smiled and pointed to the path to Yi Xian's left. "Thank you." Yi Xian nodded politely and turned to leave. But before he could take a few steps, someone checked his participation token. A few days ago, when he registered for 2 groups. In addition to the 9 Dragons group, he also registered for the 19 Dragons group. Because the 9 Dragons group was held in the morning, and the 19 Dragons group was held in the afternoon, time allowed. After the participation token was checked, Yi Xian was brought to a place where there were already hundreds of cultivators of all kinds. "Your Excellency, please punch this stone tablet." A male disciple of the Watermoon sect pointed to a large stone tablet in front of him. Yi Xian understood that this was to test his strength to prevent a cultivator with a strength higher than 10 dragons from sneaking in. Even if a strength realm cultivator suppressed their strength, the number of dragons would not decrease, so it was impossible to hide. At this time, the surrounding cultivators also turned to look. Then, Yi Xian casually punched, and 9 dragons flew out from his body. It was indeed the strength of 9 dragons. The surrounding cultivators were only surprised for a moment, and then shifted their attention away from Yi Xian's face. After all, there were many experts with the strength of 9 dragons present. The strength of 9 dragons meets the requirements for the competition. "Sir, please do not leave this place, or you will have to be tested again." After the disciple finished speaking, he went to receive the others. More cultivators came in one after another, but when the time came, the Watermoon sect sealed the entrance. Then, someone came up with 2 pots and started drawing lots for everyone. "Number 13 of the second group?"